with the scent of potpourri, films we commit to memory. Crossing the felt ropes, watching from home on my TV, looking at all my eyes can see. They tell me I view obsessively.
Hello and welcome to The Obsessive Viewer. We're a movie and TV podcast that covers a specific topic, be it genre, trope, movie, or show, each episode. You can find more of our work at obsessiveviewer.com, and if you'd like to support what we do here, you can become a patron at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer for tons and tons and tons of bonus audio content spread across all of the podcasts that we do here. That includes TV and book reviews, immediate reaction movie reviews, special Patreon potpourri, full-length episodes exclusive only to Patreon, movie commentary tracks, early access to content, and a bunch more. Basically, whatever I want to do and throw on Patreon, I just throw out there. Recently on Patreon, I just started doing episode reviews of immediate reaction reviews of The Last of Us on HBO at the $2 level, so check that out. I'm your host, Matt Hurt, and you can find me on social media, which includes Letterboxd at Obsessive Viewer. And today on the show, we are doing our 10th year in review episode, where we kick off the year. Each year we kick off with a special episode where myself, Tiny, and Mike talk about the movies we watched, the stats, and our top 10 favorite movies of the year. So very excited for that. And of course, joining me as I just mentioned for this momentous occasion is Tiny, who can be found on Letterboxd at letterboxd.com/obsessivetiny, and Mike, who can be found on Letterboxd at letterboxd.com/IamMikeWhite, and whose band As Good As It Gets provides the theme music for this podcast and can be found at asgoodasitgetsmusic.com. How is it going, you guys? Happy New Year, and did I get that link right, Mike?
It's good, yeah.
Nice.
Good intro, man.
Oh, thank you.
All the details, very good.
Yeah, thank you. I worked not hard on mapping all that out, but no, that's the intro. How are you guys doing this fine January evening? We're recording this January 16th, which is not only Martin Luther King Day, not only John Carpenter's birthday, but also our own Tiny's birthday. So, Tiny, happy birthday!
Thanks, man.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Is this how you planned on? Is this what you wanted for your birthday evening?
I have since yesterday, this whole weekend, I have forgotten so many times that my birthday is today. Like, I woke up today and I had 9 notifications on Facebook. I was like, "What the? Oh, that's right." So,
Wow.
yeah, I'm not I don't really celebrate my birthday that much. It's not that important to me, really. So it doesn't bother me at all. I think this is a great way to celebrate it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think this is the first
awesome.
time. Yeah, the first time in 10 years that we have recorded on your birthday, I believe.
Yeah.
So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Well, the last few years we've made the wise decision to kind of bump it back a week or so when we do this recording, just to give ourselves some time. So
yeah. Oh yeah. So this is our big episode. This is the episode that each year we do this. It's, like I said in the intro, it's our 10th time doing this. It's insane. We are the 3 OG co-hosts of The Obsessive Viewer. And I'm so glad that we're able to still get together to do all of this, because I know everyone's time is incredibly valuable. There are people that like one of us has kids, one of us turns 36, and one of us just is alone in his apartment. But we're
Hey, to be clear to the audience, we're all now 36.
That's true. That is true.
We're a trio of 36-year-olds.
Yes.
How many people just turned off and unsubscribed?
Hang on.
I thought these guys might be in their 20s, but
No.
36, I'm out.
The day
it's better to say we have 108 years of experience between us.
Yes, there you go.
That's true. Yeah.
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 I don't know. I think we provide a service to the podcasting realm. We are 3 white 36-year-old men, straight men. We have a voice here.
You know what I always say is the internet needs more white guys talking about movies on podcasts.
Yes. But yeah, check out Patreon, please. Patreon.com/obsessiveviewer.
But no, I mean, all
yeah.
all joking aside, I do love this episode, of course.
Oh,
I
yeah.
obviously love talking with you guys and podcasting with you guys,
Oh,
and this is a blast. And I come on and do this with you every now and then, Matt and Tiny every now and then. But I think we'll always do this. To me, this feels like an annual tradition, and I really don't see any reason why I can't, whatever's going on in my life, why I can't set aside an evening in January to talk about my favorite hobby, something I love more than anything, with a couple of guys I like that I love more than anything. So I mean, this is an easy one to do. I love doing this one.
Oh yeah, and I love doing it with you guys too. Obviously, it's weird because I'm in a weird headspace because it is the 10th time we're doing this, and that's such a big thing. But yeah,
it's awesome.
But yeah, also I have you committed now on a recording that you will always do this.
I'm in. Yeah, and, put it down.
Yeah, and Tiny. Can we get your verbal consent?
Tiny doesn't love what I just volunteered him for. He looks at me like, "Oh, damn it!"
I will one up Mike. Send me a PDF, and I will physically sign it, not even digitally.
Nice.
And I will snail mail it to you.
Nice. So we are going to be spending the evening talking about our favorite movies of the year and our letterboxd and viewing stats for the year and everything, honorable mentions, movies we missed, movies we're looking forward to in 2023. We have a packed show and everything, but I want to just say before we go in, I want to kind of set aside some time to ask how everyone's 2022 was, like personally and movies and everything in your personal lives. How was 2022 for you guys?
Mine was good. Nice. I had a pretty good year. I started a new job this year. Actually, I've only been there about 6 weeks, so we're still really new. Nice. That's going well. I mean, the wife and I are doing really well. Still love our house, still get to see our family a lot. All personal life's going great. Yeah, that's all awesome.
Nice.
And then as far as movies, I'm still trending towards movies are really just on the back burner anymore, and the heat is turned down low, unfortunately. To stick with the metaphor, but it's not that I don't like movies anymore. I am in love with television. I really love to watch TV. Not only that, but YouTube. I mean, YouTube is basically a TV channel to me anymore. So my favorite thing I watched this year was Midnight Mass.
Nice.
That was my favorite thing this whole year, and I watched it 3 times. I adore it. I'm still just really trending towards television, and the movies are moving to the back burner, but it doesn't mean that I don't really love to do this list. And more than me sharing my list this year and the past several years, I really want to hear your guys' list. And
nice.
That's more than half the fun for me anymore with these. So
sweet.
Yeah, good 2022. Yeah.
Nice. Mike, how was your 2022?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, it had its ups and downs, work-wise. So when you talk about a calendar year, I split it in 2 because I kind of think of life for me in school years.
Yeah.
And I'm currently in the middle of a fantastic school year, which of course began in 2022. But the end of last year, which is to say the beginning of 2022, was kind of rough. School was a little rough. It was a challenging year. I don't think I'm alone in that, but I also kind of struggled through it a little bit. Got to recharge the batteries in the summer. Nice. Had a great summer with the kids. Been working on music, playing shows, just keeping going, doing a lot of different things. And then things have been much better this school year. And just continuing to stay positive, I guess. Yeah, and not a whole lot of I guess the biggest thing that happened last year was we welcomed a nephew. My brother had a second kid.
Oh, nice.
A boy. So yeah.
Awesome.
Nice. Congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah. Also, you did some performances. Last year was the first time back doing live performances. Is that correct for you and Dustin?
Yes. I think we did some kind of late 2021.
Okay.
As things were kind of starting to open back up. I think we did a Thanksgiving thing. But yeah, we have an album coming out, which we've been just teasing about when we're going to release that. And it is coming. It's been a bit of a bear to finish. But yeah, that's still coming out, and kind of to ramp up to that, we've been playing out and playing shows and practicing and rehearsing and just making content.
Sweet.
And so pretty excited about the album coming out for sure.
Nice. Very nice. And you just released the latest single as well. Let's go ahead and just talk about As Good As It Gets for a second. I'll yield the floor to you to promote As Good As It Gets, of course.
So, like I said, I'll be quick about it. But we are putting out an album next month. We haven't locked in the day yet, so I hesitate to announce it. But yeah, the band is called As Good As It Gets. You can just find us anywhere. And the last song we put out was called Fingertips to the Wolverines, and we put it out on Friday. And I love the song and I love the lyrics. And as much as I would like to talk about it, it's like a personal song, and I kind of love what it's about. Dustin, my partner, wrote most of it.
Nice.
And I kind of want people to make their own guesses and assumptions about what the song is about. So I won't say. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, love that song. Fingertips of the Wolverines. You can find it anywhere. Spotify, YouTube, Amazon.
Awesome.
Google, Apple.
Awesome. Well, congrats. And I'm excited for the new music coming. So
thank you. Thanks, man. I'm excited too.
Yeah. As for me, 2022 was pretty good. I moved apartments to a completely different side of town. And I've lived here for 8-9 months now. It's been fine. Work has been okay. Everything's been going okay. Rocky start to the year because my girlfriend Jess and I broke up recently. So I'm going to make this, instead of a year in review, I'm going to make this a whole therapy episode. So no.
Aren't they all though?
Yeah. Wait. Yes.
Yeah.
But no, and I'm fine and everything. Like it was an amicable split. We're still friends and everything, but it's rough just transitioning to singledom. But that happened. And yeah, but I'm hopeful for 2023. Hoping for some good podcasting and movies and everything. So, yeah, I'm going to finally get a new car, hopefully this week. So that should finally be a big weight off of my shoulders. So looking forward to that.
Totally.
Yeah. So, now that I have brought it down and everything, do we want to get into the episode and everything? Do you want to get into our viewing stats?
Let's do it. Stats.
Yes.
Okay. So, we're going to go in a rotating order. We're going to start with Mike, but first I want to say that another shameless plug for Patreon. I posted my writing, podcasting, and Patreon stats for all of 2022 on my monthly viewing and stats Patreon episode that goes out to $10 patrons each month. But I'm going to have a clip of that at the end of this episode in the Patreon clip thing. So you'll hear all about my podcasting and Patreon stats for the year. But let's get into our viewing stats. Mike, do you want to get us kicked off with your 2022 viewing stats as recorded by Letterboxd, or wherever else you pulled the information from?
Yeah, Letterboxd. So in 2020, I watched 283 movies, which was the most I've ever watched. For obvious reasons. I mean, everybody was home in 2020, so yeah. I won't rehash that again. And then the burnout in 2021 was real. Again, a difficult school year for me, as well as just burnt out from watching movies. So I only watched 114. So my goal for 2022 was just to improve on that. And I watched 123 movies this year.
Nice.
Well, I guess 123 viewings, I should say. So 123, that's an average of 10.2 per month, which is 2.4 per week, which I guess is lower than I thought. I always watch a movie once a week in the theater. Generally, it's on Thursday per movie night. I rarely skip those. So I can always kind of account for that. And then, of course, October is just crazy with the amount of movies that I watched. I was also home with COVID from September 10th through the 16th, which is when I watched the most movies. I watched 11 movies that week.
Nice.
Thursday is my most watched or most viewing day of the week, I guess you could say. I didn't watch a whole lot of movies on repeat. That's not really a thing that I do. I'm not against it. I mean, I love them, but I'm always trying to check stuff off a list or watch something new.
Yeah.
So I did see Scream 3 times, and then I watched the Sonic the Hedgehog movie twice. And I guess I only recorded it twice, but I'm sure I watched parts of it more than 2 times. Because it was like my kid's favorite movie of the year.
I was gonna say, yeah.
We also watched Sonic 2 more than once, but I guess I didn't count that the second time. And then we watched Encanto. I mean, I don't know, 3 or 4 times. I only counted it once. My most watched genre is horror, as it usually is. And then my most watched or most seen actors are Brad Pitt and Brad Dourif, because I did do a Chucky rewatch while I was in quarantine.
Awesome.
Most watched director was Wes Craven, because we watched the Scream movies, of course. And I think that's it. Yeah, that should do it. I didn't parse out all the percentages, but yeah, so 123 films watched, up over last year, and I think it's back close to my average.
Very nice.
Oh.
Very nice. Very nice. Did you see that the Chucky TV show got renewed for season 3 today?
I did. I still haven't watched either season 1 or season 2.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I haven't either, but you know.
I just don't. I mean, I think I've talked about this here. Kind of the opposite of Tiny. I don't prioritize TV. I watch shows, but like if I can't get my wife on board, I don't watch it. I think I watched a couple of the Marvel shows last year. Was Loki last year?
I think that was 2021.
Okay, then I mean, I maybe didn't even watch a Marvel show in 2022. But yeah, I'm not watching it with my wife, I'm not watching a TV show.
Yeah.
I totally get that. Same here. It's harder to watch it on your own.
Yep, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. I will say, just while we're kind of hovering around TV for a second, best show of the year that I saw was probably Severance. And
I'll second that.
Yeah,
I'll second that.
So freaking good. And
solid number 2 for me.
Oh yeah. And I've also been rewatching The Wire, so that's just great. Greatness personified. And also I watched the first season and some of the second season of Dark on Netflix, which I'm going to get back to for Patreon soon. But that's an incredible show. So anyway, that's the TV corner.
Tiny, what's your number 1 show?
Midnight Mass was my favorite this year.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah. Patreon recordings, by the way, on there. So for pretty much everything I said. Mike, do you have any other stats, or should we throw it to Tiny?
I don't think so. Go ahead, Tiny.
Sweet. Tiny, how did you do in 2022 with stats?
Cool. Yeah. This was not my lowest number of watched movies. I thought it was. I watched 110 in 2020. I watched 83 in 2021, which was my lowest. This year I watched 96 movies, which is not great. And let's see, 1.8 per week, 8 a month. My number 1 genre was drama, which it almost always is. So that is, I think I had something kind of funny on here. What was it? Oh, kind of different. Francis Ford Coppola was my most watched director.
Oh, interesting. Oh, that makes sense.
Thanks to the Ebert project we're doing on Obsessive Viewer. We watched, I watched all 3 of the Godfather movies, and then we watched The Conversation.
Yep.
Which is all Francis Ford Coppola. So yeah, he was my number 1 director this year. Which is kind of funny. Actor was Tom Holland with 5 movies.
Oh, so, nice.
Because the Avengers movies, I usually rewatch those once or twice a year. So.
Oh yeah.
2022 releases was really disappointing. I only watched 32 movies from 2022, which is a bummer. And then same thing for like watches and rewatches. Like only a third of the movies that I watched. I guess that doesn't really take into account what I watched in the past. That's stat. But yeah, like most of the stuff I watched, I had seen before. Like not a lot of new stuff in there, unfortunately. But yeah, I've found comfort when it comes to movies in rewatching movies I've already seen. Yeah. My wife is kind of the same way. And I think that's kind of rubbing off on me over the last few years. But yeah, it's not last year. I kind of swooped in December, maybe a little bit in November, and bumped a lot of 2021 movies up on my list and got to see a lot of good movies. And I was really excited about my list and everything. This year I just did not have that. I totally failed. I was sick a lot in November, December. I missed Thanksgiving and New Year's being sick. I'm trying to get into the doctor to get stuff figured out, but yeah, it really screwed up my December and just completely demoralized me. So I didn't have that big push this year, and it really affected my list. And I'm more than happy to talk about the movies on my list, but it is going to be there's a theme that'll pop up that I'll mention at the beginning. So yeah, I mean, it's 96 movies. That's a movie every 4 days. Most people don't watch a movie every 4 days. I still think I'm an obsessive viewer. For sure. Yeah, it's not good for us, but it's I don't hate it. And like I said, there's a lot of good TV this year. I still watch a lot of things. I've really gotten into other forms of media like YouTube and TikTok. I follow tons of creators on there. And that's really a whole other form of entertainment. It's something I obsessively view still. So yeah, not a great year, but not a terrible one either. I'm still excited I still love movies, and I'm still excited to talk about them. So how bad could the year be, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
For sure, dude. For sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it's funny, like like your top 10, it's solid. Like we'll get into it and everything, but there's a lot of you got to see some of the more bigger movies that kind of demand attention, I think. So right. Yeah, there's not any like glaring omissions or anything. So I think you're totally fine with that.
Right on. Thanks, man.
Yeah. Shall we go into my viewing stats?
Please do it. Show everyone.
Okay. So in 2020,
the king has the floor. The obsessive viewer.
Yes. So in 2020, I had 283 viewings total in 2020. Of course, that's exacerbated by pandemic and quarantine and like all of the lockdown stuff. And then in 2021, I had a drop from that of almost 100 or over 100. I had 180 total viewings in 2021. And in 2022, I had 339 viewings.
You got crazy.
Yeah.
You got crazy.
I sure did.
Damn. And you got wild. At what point in the year did it become a thing?
It honestly really didn't. I don't think it ever became quite a thing. Like, I was excited about it. I probably at the end of summer, I was like, I'm going to, if I apply myself and if I tried really hard, I could probably beat Tiny's like record year of like,
that's right.
It was
one
like
a day,
360, right? I think.
366.
366. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So after, like, in the early fall, I did have that thought, and it did become a thing then. But then toward the end of, like, really going into, like, award season and screener season for the IFJA, I was just kind of like, okay, I'm not going to prioritize the numbers. I'm going to prioritize, like, watching the movies that I need to watch for the awards consideration stuff. And so that kind of became less of a thing there as my attention got shifted more toward, you know, watching stuff that I needed to watch for the critics group I'm in. So it did become a thing, but it wasn't as much of a thing. But 339, I'm proud of it. I kind of wish I would have watched just one more movie so that it would be like an even 340. But I'm not too mad or anything. Of those 339 movies or viewings, 228 of them were first viewings, so that accounts for 67.3% of my total viewings were first viewings. And I rewatched of those 339 viewings, 111 were rewatches, so that accounts for 32.7% of my total viewings. Theater viewings, I'm very proud of this. I managed to get a total of 52 theater viewings in the year.
Nice.
Very, very proud of that. And now that I'm going to hopefully within the next, like, very soon going to have, like, reliable transportation, I'm going to really make up for lost time with the theater viewings. And of the 339 viewings, 127 of them were for 2022 releases. So I saw 127 movies released in 2022. That accounts for 37.5% of my total viewings. And per Letterboxd, the time I spent watching movies in 2022, 339 movies accounted for a total of 618.4 hours, which is 25.8 days of the year.
Wow, that's incredible.
Watching movies. Yes. That's
nuts.
And now I am in, and not to bring this up, but now I'm in the beginning of 2023, now newly single, so we'll see how 2023 turns out on that front as well.
We're in trouble.
Yes.
Yeah, we are. We'll never catch up, Tiny.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I wanted to say sorry to.
Oh no, you're fine.
To take the flame. I watched 44 movies in theaters this year.
Oh, nice.
Which is kind of lower than usual. Usually I'm up over one a week. I'm at 52. But you know, this year, I think I had COVID once. I think he had COVID once.
Yeah.
I went on vacation twice. He went on vacation twice. We didn't see anything over Christmas break. So the weeks just kind of get away from us. And I find it, you know, harder and harder, you know, with the kids to sneak out at night and go to a movie.
Oh yeah. I totally get that.
We'll give you a pass.
Yeah. So 44 theater viewings.
45, I guess, if
45.
you include the second time I saw Scream.
Okay. And
I did see Scream twice.
Yeah. That was going to be my next question. How many of those, like, 44 theater viewings were movie night versus not movie night theater viewings? Do you have that?
Oh, wow. That's an excellent question. I guess 42 of them were movie nights.
Okay.
I think the only two movies that I saw that weren't movie nights were Minions and Sonic 2.
Okay.
Oh, movies I saw with my kids. Yeah, I didn't. I used to kind of go out and see movies with my wife, or catch a movie with another friend, or catch a movie by myself. I didn't do that. Aside from taking the kids to two of them, I didn't do that at all this year. Man, that's crazy.
Wow. Interesting. Tiny, offhand, do you have how many movies you saw in the theater?
I completely forgot to look. I don't think it was much more than 5, maybe 5 or 6, you know. Pretty pitiful, really.
You did get to see a few screenings though.
The most notable though was I got to see John Carpenter's The Thing in the theater for the first time ever, which was
awesome.
a total bucket list, one of my top 5 favorite movies. So that was fantastic. I love that.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yep.
This is actually a great segue too, because my next stat that I have lined up is 3 memorable / special theater viewings that I had in 2022. Which, by the way, I should have said also that I have a full rundown of my year in review stuff on the website. So check that out. I'll put a link in the show notes of that. But 3 memorable theater viewings I had were in order, I guess, chronological order of when I saw it. I saw Psycho on May 3rd at the Keystone Art Cinema, which I now live nearby. Keystone Art does a great thing where they basically have Retro Replay Tuesdays, where they have programmed screenings of old movies every Tuesday night. It's a discounted ticket, so it's like $7 for a ticket. And I took advantage of that. I saw Psycho. And then I saw a few. For the first time ever, I saw Pee-wee's Big Adventure, which was phenomenal. I was not expecting to love it as much as I did, but that was awesome. A lot of fun. Yeah, and they're currently doing this month. They're doing Kubrick. So this past week, I got to see 2001: A Space Odyssey. One of my all-time favorite movies. I've seen it in theaters countless times. And anytime I have an opportunity to see it in the theater, I'm going to see it in the theater. But they've also got Barry Lyndon playing in a couple of weeks. And then next month they're doing Billy Wilder. So they've got like Sunset Boulevard and I think Double Indemnity. And just every Tuesday they have something. So I'm really looking forward to very much being like involved with that throughout the year. But that was one of my 3 memorable theater viewings. The next one was at the Historic Artcraft Theater in Franklin, Indiana, one of my favorite theaters. On October 15th, I saw Scream 1996.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes. My first time seeing that in a movie theater. One of my bucket list movies, because of my top 25 favorite movies of all time, there's like 8 or 9 that I have not seen in a movie theater, and I was able to take that off of the list. So that was fantastic. And then
that's cool, man.
Yeah, I was very, very happy and very, very fortunate that happened. And then the final one in November, on November 5th at the Can Theater here in Indianapolis, I got to see my all-time favorite movie in the theater for the second time. I got to see this for a second time in the theater. I saw Seven Samurai, Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai, in the theater. It was fantastic. I loved it. It was so good. So it's great that I got just another chance to see that in the theater, because I've talked about it a lot, that I never thought that I'd ever even get a chance to see it in the theater when I saw it at the Artcraft a handful of years ago, and then now it just popped up at the Can. So I'm like, yep, okay, I'm gonna go. And I went, and it was cool. It was very cool.
Nice.
Yeah, so those are memorable theater viewings. Some additional stats I have, I'll run through these quickly. I averaged 28.2 viewings per month and 6.5 viewings per week on average. Here's the thing. So my biggest week was 4 weeks, tied at 4 weeks. I had in February, March, September, and December, each had 1 week where I watched 13 movies during that week. So
that's a lot, man.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
Yeah. And
the week where I was home with COVID and all I did was watch movies, I only watched 11.
Yeah. Well, okay. And I should put the caveat here that it does help me a little bit that I do have a hybrid or flexible work schedule. So I'm working 2 to 3 days at home each week. So that's a lot of like putting on something familiar or watching something when I'm not doing as much as I should. But it's that does kind of inflate the viewings. Plus there's a ton of like screenings that I go to and everything. But anyway, the busiest day of the week was Friday. I had 62 viewings on Fridays total. First movie.
That's more than one every Friday of the year.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was your Friday thing.
Yeah,
every
pretty
Friday.
much. Yep. And I think that there was maybe like on my okay, so if you go to my 2022 stats page on Letterboxd, you can see films by week, and it has like the bar graph for all of the weeks of the year and everything. The only week where I had 0 films watched was the last week of the year, because December 31st was on a Sunday, and that was like they counted as a week, so I didn't watch anything on New Year's Eve. So anyway,
how embarrassing for you.
I know. Just it's yeah, I'm ashamed.
I had 12 weeks where I watched no movies.
Wow.
Wow.
That's also kind of surprising.
Yeah.
It is. It really is.
I have 6, including that December 31st.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Lots of one film, lots of there. Not most, but at least half of the months or half of the weeks were the only movie I watched was movie night, and I just had other stuff going on.
That's fair. First movie I saw of the year was Throne of Blood. Last movie was How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Don't know how all that happened.
Mine was Scream 96,
Nice.
and then Glass Onion on December 29th.
Nice. Tiny, what was your first and last?
I have it here. Where was it? First was Spider-Man No Way Home.
Nice.
And last was Inglourious Bastards.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the stats, just really quickly. Most watched movies, Scream 22. I watched not embarrassing. I'm not embarrassed. I'll own up to it. I watched it 7 times in 2022.
That's not, I don't know. That's not an outrageous number.
Oh, okay, good.
Like,
good.
I feel like if you're hesitant, you're like, yeah, I watched it 16 times.
No.
I don't think 7 is that much.
Thank you.
I will say, I mean, I loved that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I wished I watched it 7 times.
Oh, yeah.
There were probably 7 days this year where I thought, if I had 2 extra hours, I'd watch Scream.
Yeah.
I want to watch it again.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just waiting. I'm waiting till we do the commentary to watch it again.
Yes. Patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. But I watched it 7 times, 3 times in the theater, 4 times at home, 1 time with the filmmaker's commentary track on the Blu-ray, which is fantastic. It's a great commentary. And then the second most watched movie was Nope. I saw it 3 times. And my most viewed actors were Takashi Shimura, who is one of Kurosawa's players. I watched 8 movies that he was in, and then a triple tie at 7 movies is Tom Cruise, Harrison Ford, and Kokuten Kodo, who is another Kurosawa favorite. And most viewed directors, I watched 11 Spielberg movies, 9 Kurosawa movies, 8 Wes Craven movies, and 4 Peter Bogdanovich movies. So that's where I was in 2022 with stats.
Can I make a confession or an addendum to my directors list?
Sure.
So I said Wes Craven because I looked at my who is also tied for number 1, and I was like, it's a French name, so I didn't even know how to pronounce it, and I was like, surely that's a mistake or something. I don't know. So Wes Craven with 3 films. But the other number 1 director whose movies I watched the most was Jaume Colette Serra, and I didn't even know who that was. I was like, who is that? And he directed Black Adam, House of Wax, which I watched, and then Orphan.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Just the weirdest triple feature. I watched 2 of his movies the week I was home with COVID.
It's completely circumstantial that he showed up on your stats.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. He ended up being on, maybe not on my most watched or anything, but I did see, I saw Black Adam and House of Wax just by happenstance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go get it, Jaume.
Yeah. Are we seeing a Jomasats here?
I don't know. Black Adam didn't do too hot. So probably not.
Yeah. Despite The Rock's best efforts.
Yeah.
So that's my 2022 in stats. Really quickly, 2022 movies that I watched or that I missed. I don't know if any of these would have made my top 10 or anything, but these were movies that I had somewhat on my radar and just didn't get to. This Place Rules on HBO Max, the documentary from Andrew Callahan about the lead up to the January 6th insurrection. I ended up watching it early this month. It's good. It's solid. It's nothing that you don't already know, or it's not anything. It's fine. I didn't get a chance to see Babylon. I wasn't interested in seeing Babylon or anything, but I do feel like it's a big release, so I kind of feel like I should have seen it. There's a documentary that got a lot of play in the IFGA awards consideration. I think it got runner up for the awards, or maybe not. I'm not sure. Check the last episode of the podcast. But I Didn't See You There. And then I also missed Violent Night, which is hitting Peacock.
Oh man,
yeah. It's either going to be fun. I'm excited because I think it's either going to be on Peacock or Paramount Plus, whichever one it's going to land on. But I think that's coming out this coming Friday, so I'm going to catch up with that.
I know you want to catch up. Just try to wait until next Christmas.
Oh, really?
Save it, dude. Because what works so well, it's not even in my top 10, but what works so well about that movie is how well it balances the violence and the overtop and all that with like real magic of Christmas, heartwarming stuff. It's a really like sweet Christmas movie with the ridiculous action. I mean, it's half stupid and half awesome.
Okay,
just try. I don't know. Do whatever you want, of course, but try to save it. Try to save it till Thanksgiving.
I might, or Christmas. I might try to say it. Yeah.
Thanksgiving weekend.
Oh, yeah. I might do a double feature of that and Krampus, give Krampus a rewatch. But yeah, so that was that. And then there's also a movie from Benson and Moorhead, Something in the Dirt. I didn't get a chance to see that. I know that it's gotten some acclaim and everything, so I want to check that out when it is available in my eyesight. So... Okay, so those are my stats for 2022. Anything else on stats, or do you guys want to go into our honorable mentions if we have them?
Oh, I don't think so. I did have a couple that I missed that I wanted to mention.
Yeah, go right ahead.
I didn't get to see Tar. Is that how you pronounce it? Tar?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I forgot to even just say, what did you guys miss? So go ahead.
Yeah, that's okay. I also didn't see Babylon, but I kind of feel the same as you. It just looks a little too overindulgent, self-indulgent. I don't know what the word is.
Yeah.
And then probably the biggest one that I watched that I kind of just, I don't know. I don't mean to be contrarian or whatever, but I did not watch Avatar: The Way of Water. I just didn't want to. I just couldn't bring myself. We just kind of both agreed on movie night. We're like, I don't really want to spend 3 hours. We just didn't see it. And I don't feel like seeing it anytime soon, honestly.
I don't blame you. I that's a movie that I enjoyed the spectacle for maybe an hour of it and everything, and then it's something that there's really nothing too deep to it. In my eyes, it's it's James Cameron. It's spectacle. He's very light on storytelling.
Yeah.
It's
funny that he didn't go too deep with that movie because he has been deeper in the ocean than any person living on the planet.
Right. Yeah. Tiny, any 2022 movies that you missed?
Yeah, tons of regrets. The biggest one is The Whale. I really wanted to see that, and I had full plans to go see it New Year's weekend, but I was sick. I wanted to see Avatar really bad. Paige wanted to go as well, but again, just weekends filled up and I got sick and all that. Tar was a big one. Everything Everywhere All at Once was huge. One that I missed. X, I really wanted to see. Looked really fun. I missed out on a lot of horror this year. X, The Invitation. I wanted to see that. Didn't even see Halloween Ends. I mean, I really dropped the ball on a lot of stuff this year, but I'm hoping to catch up to it. So
nice. And yeah, it was an insane year for horror.
Oh my gosh, horror
incredible.
Is just horror is back. I mean, I don't even know if that's a thing. There's never been a better time to be alive for a horror fan. My horror stats and my horror viewing accomplishments this year, I'm very pleased with.
Nice.
Very pleased with. Yeah. I mean, it's if you love horror, you are feasting right now.
Nice.
Spoiler alert. This is the first year in, I think, the last 4 or 5 that I have not had a horror movie on my top 10.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Which is disappointing.
That's
interesting.
Wild. Yeah. Yeah, because let's see.
I have 5. Half of my list.
Wow.
Yeah, Dr. Sleep in the past few years, The Invisible Man, It. I mean, those are some of the big ones that made my list, and they'd still be on my list. So,
I would say that there could be an argument made for your number 9 being at least horror adjacent.
Right. There are. I was going to say that there are some tones of horror in that one.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But yeah, very, very, very interesting. Do we have honorable mentions?
Yeah, I got
plenty.
Okay.
Cool.
Plenty.
I didn't bother.
Okay, that's totally fine.
It was hard for me to get the top 10 together this year. So
sure thing. All right. Well, Mike, do you want to hit us with some honorable mentions, and I'll give mine?
Yeah, so it was a great year for movies. I saw a lot of movies that I really enjoyed quite a bit. So I won't spend too much time on honorable mentions. I'll buzz through these pretty quickly, but I'm gonna go through 10 of them. At my number 20 is Violent Night. I really liked that a lot. Number 19 was Men. I thought that was really creepy for most of it. That was in my top 10 actually for a little while. Number 18 is Smile, one of the scarier movies of the year. I liked it a lot. Number 17, The Banshees of Inisherin. I loved it. I can clearly see why it's such a great movie and has so many accolades. It just didn't quite that movie and I are just not on the same tempo. So it's an honorable mention. It's not a favorite. Black Phone was in my top 10, but it kind of took a tumble I kind of thought about my criteria. A movie called Speak No Evil, which was a kind of an underseen horror movie, was excellent. Glass Onion was really, really fun. Didn't make my top 10. That's an honorable mention. The Innocents, which if I ever reshuffle these in a couple years, the one I see like cracking the top 10 would be The Innocents. Like I'm probably going to watch that again next October.
Nice.
My number 12 is Bones and All. The Timothée Chalamet cannibal movie was really great, really creepy and cute. And then my number 11, so my most honorable mention, and I do feel a little bad not including this in the top 10 because it is great. Again, it's like no slight to these movies that this, but yeah, this movie took a tumble is Nope. And I just thought about when I went through my top 10, what of the top 10 am I most likely to watch again next year? And the truth is maybe 3 of them. I just don't rewatch movies a whole lot. But I looked at what I had seen and I thought about Nope. And I just like, am I excited to watch Nope again soon? And the answer is nope. But it's great. It's great. And I imagine we're going to talk about it later. But honorable mention for me.
Nice. That's interesting because it's wild because no, we're not going to be talking about it.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Never mind then. Well, that makes me feel a little better.
Very interesting. Yeah.
I've actually been surprised at how many top 10 lists I've seen that movie on. Because I like that movie. It's good, but I don't think I ever really saw it on my top 10.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
But I've seen people have it their number 1. So I'm just kind of surprised at that. But yeah.
I can, and I don't want to yuck anybody's yum. I can, if you're really diehard Jordan Peele fan, that I understand. My number 1, I have to make excuses for my number 1. I'll just say that. So like, you don't have to make excuses if Nope is your movie of the year. I just want to offer that.
Absolutely. Conceit. And it's interesting to go into my honorable mentions. Nope is not on my honorable mentions or my top 10, but I loved Nope. And I think I think that speaks to the quality of the year in movies. I'm sure that some of it, I don't know how many movies were originally slated for 2020 or 2021 and got pushed because of the pandemic, and maybe that's a contributing factor to just the glut of good movies in this year, or if it's just, hey, this is a very good year. But this was a different kind of challenging top 10 to make, specifically because halfway through the year, I had a solid foundation of movies on there that I was certain, okay, well, yeah, we still have half the year, but I'm going to be talking about Nope at the beginning of January. I'm going to be talking about Men at the beginning of January. And here we are now. I do not have either of those on my top 10 or honorable mentions. And it's because there's just so many other things that were really good. So without further ado, I have 5 honorable mentions. I'll run down really quickly. And these are in alphabetical order. There's a documentary called Bad Acts that is about an Asian American family in Michigan throughout 2020, that they are running a restaurant and they're dealing with lockdown, the pandemic, racism, the social the social upheaval, political upheaval, and everything of 2020. And the backlash that the community, a very rural, pro-Trump community, them facing outright racism and everything. It's an incredible documentary. It's called Bad Acts. It's one of my honorable mentions. Really was very much impressed with it. The next one, again in alphabetical order, is The Banshees of Inisherin. I saw this in the theater when I did a triple feature in the theater, and I have a Patreon exclusive Patreon potpourri episode where I talk about it. But I think that the relationship or the friendship at the center of it and the dissolvement of that friendship is so well told, and it goes into this level of absurdity and even just crazy, just absolute craziness that still hooks you emotionally. So I loved it. It was fantastic. The next honorable mention was a movie that I reviewed in Obsessive Viewer episode 365 with my friend Sam Watermeyer, The Batman. This I was so certain would be in my top 10 because I loved it. It got a little bit of mixed reviews. I also wrote a review on the website, which of course you can check out my entire archive of 2022 writing and podcasting at obsessiveviewer.com/matthurt2022. But the Batman's fantastic. I think that the tone that it strikes, while it is very much reminiscent of the gritty realism of Christopher Nolan and the just overall aesthetic of a David Fincher crime movie, it still is cool to see Batman play in that arena. And it's something that I've always kind of fantasized about wanting to see on the big screen, is a serial killer Riddler mystery movie. And it did not disappoint for me. So I really loved The Batman. And then a couple other honorable mentions. The Fabelmans. I'm not a big fan of filmmaker self-indulgent autobiographical movies about their childhood and everything, but there's a sincerity to Steven Spielberg's approach to it, and the way that he uses this movie as a way to dissect his relationship, or his avatar's relationship with film as an art form and as a way to see the world. So it's just really, it's a very sincere and genuine approach to the discovery of art as a discovery of film as art. And I just really appreciate Spielberg's approach to it. And finally, my final honorable mention is Resurrection, which is available on Shudder. I did a Patreon.
Watched it last night.
Oh, nice. What did you think of it?
It's great. I don't maybe I saw it too late or didn't. I don't know. It's not in my honorable mentions. Okay. But I really liked it a lot. I mean, Rebecca Hall is just is just out of control at this point. That is, her performance in that is one of the best performances of the year in a year that has some incredible performances. And is there ever I can't think of a movie. I don't know. Maybe I think I'm being a little too granular here with my criticism, but where like a single monologue changes a movie.
Oh my
from
God.
Like, oh, this is like a tight thriller. Like,
Mm.
what's going on here? To this movie's like crazy. This is gonna be a crazy movie.
Yes.
I was like, is this horror? Why is this on Shudder? And then she has that monologue in the office, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is a horror movie.
Yeah, that's the scene where I was like, this is something special. This is something very special.
And Tim Roth.
Tim Roth is incredible. Yeah. So yeah, Resurrection, that's my final honorable mention. Yeah, I mean, in a year where I mean, I don't know, if any of my top 10 movies did not exist, I would be more than happy to put any of these 5 in its place. Because this was a very strong year for movies, and I really liked my honorable mentions. Yeah. So Tiny, you go ahead. Yeah.
Really quickly, I wanted to ask Mike about the Batman because I'm curious.
Sure.
Did you see your students like Gen Z students attaching to that movie or liking that movie at all? I'm curious.
I love you, Tiny. That I did not think that was the question you were going to ask. That's the better question.
Okay.
Dude, they loved it. Yes, they loved it.
Okay.
I mean, it was like they were walking around claiming to be Vengeance for the next week or so. And Nirvana has had the biggest pop that they have had since the 90s. I mean, Nirvana is still in I reckon because of that movie. Yeah, it had a huge, I mean, people were like, they kind of behaved, and we were a little older than my students were when The Dark Knight came out, but I imagine they behaved much like high schoolers behaved when The Dark Knight came out. Just like, oh my God, the best movie ever. And I was like, have you seen The Dark Knight? And they're like, no, I haven't seen it yet. I'm like, oh, see The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear that because I really liked the Batman too. If I had done honorable mentions, it would have been one of mine.
Nice.
It was on my top 10 for most of the year. I feel like Gen X had Tim Burton. We had Christopher Nolan, and Gen Z needed their turn. And I'm really glad to hear that they connected to it. And Matt, when you talked about it, you mentioned that it had some Fincher feel to it, and I totally agree with that. But I also think it is a pretty good blend of a Burton looking filter vision with Nolan. And I feel like it blended those two kind of visions and visual representations together in like a really good way that I was not expecting at all.
That's interesting. Yeah.
More gothic than gritty.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Exactly. But I was really hoping Gen Z would connect to it because they need their Batman too, you know. And
gosh, I agree with you. That's so awesome.
Great. Yeah.
You know,
I'm glad to hear that.
I didn't love the Batman, and we've kind of talked about that before, but when they would ask me and they're like, "Oh, I loved it." And I said to them, and I wasn't even trying to be glib or whatever, but I was just like, "I'm so glad that you loved it. I'm glad that you loved it. That's awesome."
Yeah. That's
They're like,
great.
"Did you like it?" And I'm like, "Well, no, but I love that you loved it."
Nice. I'm glad we got to talk about the movie too, and that's good.
Yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
So shall we dive into our top 10s? Here we go. Yes. All right. So again, we're gonna go round the table, starting with Mike. We're gonna go 10 to 1. We'll talk about our top 10 picks one by one. So Mike, do you want to get us kicked off with your number 10 favorite movie of 2022?
Yes. And if this is, I wonder if anybody skipped ahead to this part, like if you hit the timestamp. If so, hello, my name is Mike White. You can find me at I am Mike White on Twitter. Welcome to the main event, the top 10 list of 2022. Okay, I'll begin. Late addition to the list for me. I didn't see this until, well, admittedly January, but that's why we give ourselves a little bit of time to fill these in. So my number 10 is RRR, which is, I believe, inarguably the worst titled movie of the year. But I do think that there's a translation thing happening there, which I just have to forgive. So I read a review that said this might not be the best movie of the year, but it's certainly the most movie of the year. And I just loved that. And I think that that's so spot on. And for me, it's kind of interesting to include this one on a top 10 list because you do have to make a good number of concessions for RRR. There are plot developments, there's character motivations, there's story developments that are frankly incomprehensible. And really, I don't know if this is good or bad, but it's done. The whole thing is done with such earnestness. Like, I don't think the movie is winking at all. I think it's just go big for the sake of going big. And sometimes that doesn't work. Now, when it works huge. So I don't think it's a perfect movie. However, I've mentioned several times in this podcast, like how much weight I give to the idea of a movie's entertainment value. In fact, my favorite movies of the last few years, Spider-Man No Way Home, Avengers Endgame, which I argued are more amusement park thrill rides than like cinema, than film. So in a similar spirit to those movies, I have to include RRR on my list because it was so undeniably entertaining. Like, scene after scene, set piece by set piece, I found myself laughing, like with abject joy and happiness. Like, my wife watched part of it for me, and it's not, she's not a big fan of foreign films, but even she was into it. I did have to watch the movie over 2 nights. I had to break it up because it's pretty long, and I started it a little late. But like, my wife would hear me laughing from the other room just out of like excitement at what I was watching. So I won't forget this movie for a long time. Easy top 10 for me.
Nice. I'm so glad to hear that. And I'm going to be talking about it later. Tiny, I know you're going to be talking about it later too. But anything else about RRR this round? Or Tiny, do you want to go to yours?
I'm ready to go to mine.
Okay, nice. What's your number 10 movie of the year? Which I should say, of all 3 of our lists, this is the one movie that I have not watched of any of these lists. So
dang.
I need to. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, your number 10.
So my number 10 is going to kick off the theme. It's a recurring theme for my list. What the hell is this movie doing on my list? that is the theme this year. Another iteration of that is, what right does this movie have to be on my list? I was not expecting this movie to make my list at all. And, there are probably 5 or more movies that I didn't see this year that I would put on my list, but I would stand by Bullet Train totally as my number 10 movie. I had an absolute blast with this movie. It was one of those situations where I got up early on a Saturday. I was up at like 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, and just saw this on there, ready to go for free. I don't even remember what service it was on, and I was like, I'm just going to watch this. It looks fun. I think my favorite thing about this movie is that Brad Pitt is in it, and Brad Pitt he is bigger than the movie, right? Brad Pitt tends to overshadow movies sometimes. He's had that happen in his career several times. But what I love is that Brad Pitt is both having a freaking blast and taking this movie seriously and this performance seriously at the same time. Nice. He's really doing both. He's funny, he's goofy. Clearly, he won an Oscar a couple years ago. He's continues to be a huge box office draw, one of the biggest movie stars in the world. But I feel like he took this movie because it's going to be fun, and he's having fun. But then he takes it seriously at the same time, and he gets into this like kind of very genuine emotional moments in the movie, and he's actually like going through something, and he has this funny recurring thing where he's trying to like find spirituality in all these situations when someone's trying to kill him. It's really goofy, but it's also, it has this tinge of genuineness to it, and it's just kind of funny. And you've never seen Brian Tyree Henry like this before. I was like, is he British? Like, is he from England? Like, because he does such a good job with his accent. He's not. As far as I can tell, he's American. But they pair him up with Aaron Taylor Johnson, who has a very thick, I want to say, northern accent or something like that. And they just bounce off each other fantastically. This movie really made me think back to another movie that came out 15 years ago, maybe, Smokin' Aces.
And
That
Yeah, I
movie
like
was
that movie.
that movie was good. It was decent. It was a pretty good movie. It was fun, and I think this is a much better version of that movie. Kind of a bunch of hitmen coming together to like, all swarming in on this one spot. Except this time it's a train. It's kind of different. I feel like this is a better version of what Smokin' Aces wanted to be. If anyone remembers that movie, it just popped into my head while I was watching it. But yeah, it's a really, really good time. It was directed by David Leitch, probably most famous for Deadpool 2.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's just a really good time, a really, really good time with the movie. And again, there's these, it's just maybe I picked up on it and others didn't, but there's just these really funny moments that are also genuine at the same time. And it's just not something you would really expect from a fun action thriller like this. And they just blended those two things really well. And I just had a blast with the movie.
Very cool. I was interested in seeing it and I just didn't get around to it, but I'm going to rectify that because it looks like a lot of fun. So, yeah.
I mean, if I had done another honorable mention, that would have been my next one.
Oh,
Nice.
sweet.
I
Nice.
liked it a lot. Yeah, Bullet Train was really fun.
This might be the only top 10 list of a person that's not 12 years old who has it on there. I mean, like, and that's fine. I'm fine with that because I would totally recommend this movie.
Nice. Cool. So that's number 10 for Tiny. That is Bullet Train. It's on Netflix, by the way.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. So my number 10 is a movie that I had been looking forward to around the time it got on my radar, like early summer. It is The Whale, Darren Aronofsky's film. I'll have links in the show notes to coverage. I did a Patreon exclusive Patreon potpourri thing throughout awards season. I just cram a lot of 2022 viewings or the year of release viewings, and then I do I do Patreon potpourri, which is four movies talking about each of those movies at a time. So that's at the $5 level. Check out patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. But anyway, The Whale is a movie that in varying times in my top 10 list, it was always going to be on my top 10 list, I think. But it ended up landing at number 10 just because, and Mike, you and I had talked about this via text at some point, but Aronofsky is pretty straightforward with a lot of his metaphors and a lot of the symbolism and everything, which isn't a detriment to the movie. It isn't a problem for me or anything, but
depends on the movie for me.
Exactly. So like a movie like Mother, having just way overt like religious symbolism and stuff like that can be a little overbearing and everything. But The Whale, I think, is a great marriage of some subtlety with just outright just tell exactly what you're saying or what you're wanting to say, either through dialogue or imagery. And there's some things that I keep getting fixated on. Obviously, Brendan Fraser's performance is out of this world incredible. He puts his all into it. And something that I really appreciate about The Whale is that it's not just his performance. It's not a performance movie. It's not a movie that's just centered around one person's performance, but there is this all-encompassing thing from like the sound design, like the soft like wheezing and the breathing noises throughout it, and the confinement of the apartment. It's like clearly this is a play. It's adapted from a play, and it's clear that Aronofsky chose to make it as confined and play-like as he could, and it comes across incredibly well. Because the thing that I kept getting fixated on is that it's a movie about a man who has let his grief, depression, his mental health deteriorate in such a way that he has created a prison for himself. It is about an obese man with an eating disorder, and him trying to rectify his relationships in his life. And I feel like there is such an outspoken Twitterverse thing that is just really diminutive of it or reductive of the movie, just saying like, oh, it's fat phobic, it's really grotesque, or it's people are saying that it's gratuitous and everything, and I don't see that. I think that it's about a man who is imprisoned himself, and when he reaches a point, he decides that he's not going to let his prison keep him from having hope for humanity and the people in his life. And it's just such a beautifully told story in that respect. It's tragic. It's sad. It's incredibly emotional. And I love it. I loved it. So anyway, that's my number 10. It's The Whale. I'm genuinely just so happy for Brendan Fraser, because he, by all accounts,
gosh. Yeah, he's just like one of the best stories of the year.
Absolutely.
Amen. Yeah,
absolutely. And not to brag, but I got to interview him on the podcast for 2.5 minutes, like in 2019. Could not be a nicer interviewee, for the 2.5 minutes. Yeah.
That's awesome.
But that's my number 10. That's The Whale. Mike, do you want to bring us into your number 9?
Yeah, number 9 is Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
Nice.
So half of my list is horror, and while that's not all that surprising, considering it's my favorite genre, I don't usually see so many horror movies that like I also consider great movies, like regardless of the genre.
Yeah.
My list isn't usually half horror. But the pop cultural moment like horror is having the last few years, it just continues to grow. Like for years, the only movies that made money were superhero and horror. And it seems, at least in 2022, that the foundations under superhero movies are beginning to crack, while horror continues to ascend in popularity.
Yeah.
And its willingness to like challenge conventions. It just continues to ascend. In 2022, especially, like no genre spoke to my personal ethics and perspective, as well as critiquing and challenging cultural norms and issues more effectively than horror. Like I could do a whole episode on this, but all of the reasons I just mentioned are why a horror comedy like Bodies, Bodies, Bodies ends up on my top 10 list. So one of my personal challenges of the last couple of years for me is grappling with like my own journey into irrelevance in terms of pop culture's target demographic. And Bodies, Bodies, Bodies felt like the first fun and poignant criticism of Gen Z culture, as far as I can tell. Yeah. At least in the horror genre. It's self-referential enough that I think young people will understand it, but I also felt like this movie and I are coming from the same perspective, which felt nice. This sort of slasher movie is not scary. It was not a scary movie. I don't think it was trying to scare anybody at all. But the humor works throughout, and the satire is inspired. I like, forgive me for this comparison. I hope it doesn't sound like sacrilege. But it reminded me of Scream in what it was doing with the genre, with slasher, with our presumptions and expectations, and with culture as it is as a moment. I mean, Scream came out in 96, right as like this earnestness and sincerity moment was cresting and falling into the sarcasm that we relate the 90s with so well. What's going on now in pop culture is internet and TikTok and the internet buying seconds of your attention constantly, and like me culture and putting yourself, you are the product, you are content, and Bodies, Bodies, Bodies is about that. And I don't care that it wasn't scary, and this might end up on that same teenagers list, Tiny, as the kid who put Bullet Train on their list. But I thought Bodies, Bodies, Bodies was really good, really smart movie.
Nice.
Cool.
Yeah, I really liked Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. And I do want to mention, I have a ton of respect for your top 10 list, Mike, because you have not one, but two movies that have podcaster representation. So,
yeah, that's true.
Nice.
But yeah, that's really good. I enjoyed Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
Cool.
Nice. Tiny, how about your number 9?
Yeah, my number 9 is Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and this doesn't fall into the "why is this on my list" category. I think this is a great choice for anyone's top 10 list. I was so surprised at this movie. I thought the final, not the final phase, but phase 4 of the MCU stuff was, really going to be boring, and any of the characters left over from phase 3 or, pre-Endgame characters were going to be wrap-up stories, boring stories, just cash grabs. And this movie was not that at all. I've vocalized before how I feel about the Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire, Spider-Man trilogy. I was not a fan, and I really should have let that go back in the day. I have so many regrets about how much I've shit over that trilogy because, man, why did I waste so much energy crapping all over it? It's fine. It's a fine trilogy. Tobey Maguire is not a great actor, but he's fine. But I never had a problem with Sam Raimi. I always appreciated that he was a guy with vision, and he sticks to his vision, and I respect that, even if it's not my thing. But Sam Raimi is kind of my thing. I always kind of liked him as a director, and this is, man, I feel like this is such a huge thing for him to just be kind of thrust into the MCU sort of out of nowhere, and just really make this his movie. But while also respecting the vision that the Russo brothers and Kevin Feige built with all the Avengers stuff over the last decade or so. He really blended that into his vision, and I was so shocked, frankly, at what he achieved with this movie. And I said there was not a horror movie on my top 10, and I'm glad you brought this up, Matt. This is not a horror movie, but there are some straight up horror elements in this movie.
Oh yeah,
reanimated corpses.
Yep,
absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, how name another movie where the main character, name another action movie where the main character is a reanimated zombie, right? I mean, that's such a, I mean, I'm sure there's some out there, but it's so rare, it's such a cool idea to do. And just the visuals and everything, the villain, I think another thing I latched onto is that the villain is, it's something that Marvel's very good at least the movies that have come out over the last, decade and a half. There's usually at least an element of empathy for the villain. Maybe empathy isn't the best word, but you can at least see the path to where they got, how they got to where they got.
Definitely empathy in this one.
Definitely empathy in this one. But like, like it's, you don't necessarily empathize much with Thanos, but you can at least see.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, you can see his path, right? And it is a cogent path to how he got to where he got, and it's the same thing for this. And there's some full on empathy in this, and it's I don't think it ever justifies what she's doing, but again, you feel it evokes that emotion, and that's a big thing to pull off with a sequel, a sequel movie, especially after Endgame, post Endgame, to pull off something this big. I was just so surprised at how fantastic this movie was. It's huge, it's emotional. The stakes are massive. I mean, I was really surprised at what they pulled off in this movie. It's really good.
Nice. Yeah, that's why I'm so excited for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumanium. Because I have a feeling, I really hope that like Kang the Conqueror is going to be just a massive, like the introduction of Kang proper in the MCU in Ant-Man is going to be Thanos level, or I mean, I'm just excited about it. But yeah, Doctor Strange is very good.
I'm with you on the villain, Tiny, and how they were able to keep that in their back pocket through all of the advertising and trailers and promotion of the entire thing. I mean, every time I would see it, I was like, well, wait, like, did they ever show who the villain is? I guess it's that like evil Doctor Strange. I guess he's gonna fight different multiversal. So for a third of the way through the movie, I kind of turned to Jake, my movie night partner, and I was like, wait, is that the villain of the movie? And I was like, oh, this is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh,
They did not phone this in at all.
No.
It was cool. It was really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So that's Tiny's number 9, and I will go ahead and go into mine. I'm not going to talk much about it. I did a Patreon exclusive thing, but Tar, Kate Blanchett, her performance is it's another one of those movies that it has an incredible performance at its center. She's like a classical orchestra. God, why can't I? Maestro. I can't remember the exact conductor. Thank you. And the movie is centered around her. She's extremely like cutthroat, toxic, and like manipulative and everything, but the movie handles that in such a way that, like, right from the outset, you have like these incredible like long sequences that are often like single take sequences where it's her just talking. And like the opening scene, I was just marveling at it because the opening scene is her being interviewed on stage by someone from the New Yorker, and they're asking all of these questions about conducting and about classical music and her whole like resume and everything, and she's just saying like these very like intricate, eloquent things. Like, I have no clue what she's talking about, but she is saying it with such authority. And then to see that, not the authority of it, but to see the cracks in her like facade of genius manifest into this just very toxic and person that is not a good person, basically, is really thrilling. And Kate Blanchett's performance is absolutely out of this world incredible. So I was really impressed with Tar. Very, very good. It's an interesting kind of echo of like a movie like Whiplash in some respects. But this was an incredible performance driven movie. So Tar, that's my number 9. Really, really liked it. So yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. My number 8?
Yes, Mike, bring us into your number 8.
Yeah, so RRR kind of snuck its way into number 10 kind of later. And I when I bumped Nope out of my top 10, is a little behind the scenes for you guys, I was really making space for my number 8. Like, it wasn't on my top 10. And then the more I thought about what I'm going to watch again, what I want to recommend to people, I have to recommend my number 8, which is Pearl.
Nice.
Yeah, so Ty West's The House of the Devil is one of my favorite horror movies. Top 15, top 20.
Nice.
It's one of the most unique period pieces I've ever seen, in that it's really one of the only horror movies I can think of that actually looks like it was filmed in 1983, right? I mean, so many movies do such a good job of the setting, the aesthetic, the costuming. You know, Stranger Things, it looks like a heightened version of the 1980s, but it doesn't look like it was filmed in 1980s. No. Yeah. It's crystal clear. It's perfect. It looks like it was filmed 3 years ago. But House of the Devil is 1983. Anyway, West doesn't recreate that period perfect aesthetic with his prequel to X, which I will talk about later. But everything else about Pearl works beautifully, perfectly. It's sickly sweet in the beginning. Like, even when we catch glimpses of Mia Goth's burgeoning psychopathy, but as she descends into desperate madness, the intensity of the movie grows by the minute, and it all climaxes in one of the all-time great one-shot horror monologues that, I'll give you Rebecca Hall late in the year, but Mia Goth at the end of Pearl might be my favorite monologue of the year.
Oh, nice.
And what I love so much about her in that movie, and really Mia Goth's performance in the movie itself, is that it is that sickly sweetness. It's like she's like eating a Sour Patch Kid. Like, it's kind of sour and weird. Like, you know, it's like you don't want to put it in your mouth because it'll hurt a little bit, but then it tastes sweet. But then like it also gives you a cavity later as it chops you in half with an axe. And so it's just an interesting, like even as she's going crazy, I'm falling in love with Pearl.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And not to compare the two because they're apples to oranges, but like I didn't feel that with Rebecca Hall's performance in Resurrection. This one is like and I don't mean to be gross and like objectification or whatever, but like I had such a crush on Pearl, and like to see her go crazy is like, oh, it's heartbreaking, even though you know it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So it's wild to watch a movie about a character's arc toward mental deterioration. Like even when we know where it ends, like literally we know her ending. But you still root for her, which I think is a tribute to Ty West's script, his eye, to Mia Goth's amazing performance. It's definitely a movie I'll watch again come Shocktober.
Nice.
Pearl, number 8.
Same here. I love that Sour Patch Kids analogy. That's
Thank
great.
you.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah,
Thank
well
you.
done.
That was a riff. I was just like, when I said sickly sweet, I was like, what is sweet but like hurts?
You nailed it.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you. Thanks, guys.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that's Mike's number 8. Pearl. Tiny, how about your number 8?
So my number 8 falls back into the theme of I'll put this one as I'm really surprised it made my list. This is Top Gun Maverick. I knew I was going to like the movie because I love the original. I don't hold the original in the regard that some people do, but I truly love the original. Great movie. And so I knew I was going to like this just because it felt like everything was clicking for it. Like with the promotion and just, everyone's heart was in. I mean, Tom Cruise doesn't go half speed on anything. So even when he misses huge, like with The Mummy or whatever. But I was so surprised at how genuinely good the movie was. I feel like so many things just clicked at the right time with this movie. Miles Teller is kind of hit or miss. I feel like he's a massive douchebag, but I think he's a pretty good actor. I genuinely enjoy his performances, and I thought,
unfortunately, he is a good actor.
He is. I mean, he is. He was at the Indy 500 this year, and I was like, man, I really want to punch him in the face.
Jeez.
But anyway,
just to see how he would act and respond, like
right. And his face, I want to punch it. But no, he's a good actor. I cannot take that away from him at all. And I thought he was going to douche it up big time in this, but he was genuine, and I think he nailed it. I really think he came into the character. He was humbled, just like Maverick was in the original. And I think it was a good performance, an appropriate performance. And they tapped into all the nostalgia that we knew they were going to. But it wasn't a true rehash. I think it was they made this movie their own. And it was just so fun. And nostalgia is, we've talked about it before on the podcast. I know Mike has mentioned it plenty of times, but nostalgia is massive right now, especially for our generation, especially for millennials, some Gen X too, but like millennials, nostalgia is just king right now as far as content, in so many ways. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like, I don't think there's anything with going full bore into nostalgia, and as long as you're not half-assing it, and as long as you're not being tongue-in-cheek or just trying to capitalize, like this is so, the first movie came out in the 80s. It was almost 40 years ago. Like, people had to want to make this movie. This wasn't just a cash grab. Like, they put these people in these planes. Like Tom Cruise can fly these planes. Like that's bananas. Like, I mean, they could have just totally CGI'd this shit, but like Tom Cruise is flying around an F-16 or whatever. Like that's pretty bananas. So I mean, I think everyone's heart was in this movie, and it just totally showed on the screen. I mean, the actors, the producers, they didn't they didn't cut corners anywhere, and it culminated in a super entertaining and high stakes movie. I would argue maybe even more than the first one, as far as the stakes and like the impact of a lot of stuff. I mean, there's a tragedy in the first one that is hard to top, but yeah, I was surprised. I knew I was gonna like the movie. I'm surprised at how just damn good it is. Like, objectively a good movie. I was really surprised at how good it was, and it made it number 8 on my list. Yeah,
nice. So Top Gun didn't make my list or honorable mentions just because, I mean, the year was incredible. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. So nice.
I will about it in a little bit.
Yep.
Sweet.
Shall we go to my number 8?
Do it.
All right. So my number 8 is Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery, of which I reviewed in episode 386 of the podcast with my friends Andy Carr and Mitch Ringenberg from the IFJA. Glass Onion is just such a treat. When Knives Out stands as one of my favorite movies of the last few years. One of the movies that it's one of my now like comfort movies. I'll throw it on and watch it because it is just the ensemble. It's such a fun ensemble piece, and Glass Onion takes a different approach to the ensemble respect there, and does something that is still very much a fun mystery whodunit, but it's different enough from Knives Out, even though structurally it's kind of similar, but it's different enough in terms of the interactions between the characters, their personalities, the pandemic storyline and everything as well. It's all a just rich tapestry of like comedy, mystery, kind of antics. And I just came out of Glass Onion thinking I'm going to be watching this movie several times, and I really, really hope that Rian Johnson and Daniel Craig just never leave this franchise behind. They're just so good. They're so good. So I really loved Glass Onion. It's my number 8. And again, we reviewed it on Obsessive Viewer episode 386. Really, really loved it. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Mike, want to bring us into number 7?
Sure. Let's keep going on the horror train. This one is, I guess, horror adjacent. I don't know. I guess it's a horror movie. The Menu.
Oh, yeah.
Again, here's a movie that works so well for me because it's a projection of my personal ethos.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a teacher, so I'm just barely on the tissue thin edge between the middle class and the lower class. So like any movie that celebrates both a love of art and creativity, as well as the service industry, while simultaneously skewering, pun intended,
nice.
the wealthy class, I'm on board with. I'm it's why I love Knives Out so much.
Mm-hmm.
And Glass Onion, I guess.
Yeah.
The mystery of this movie, while it lasted, was incredibly compelling. I was all in for the entire runtime. But the climax and resolution for me was what really put this movie on my top 10 list. I just love how everything came together. I don't want to spoil too much, and I really think explaining it would kind of spoil what is so really special about the ending. But along the way, every actor in this movie was game for the ridiculousness of the story, and it all kind of came together into really tight, really effective mystery thriller commentary.
Nice. Well said. I really liked The Menu, but again, just a wealth of good movies. So
yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Tiny, your number 7?
My number 7 doesn't follow the theme, but I picked the movie After Yang.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was my number 7. Yeah, I think what I loved about this movie was Colin Farrell as the dad, Jake. I think he's the main character, the focal character, and I think it's fascinating to watch. I'm not a father yet, but I'm really trying to get there. And I've been just latching on to father characters and father stories lately. And this one really hit me. It really struck a chord with me. I think it's interesting because he kind of falls into the trope that a lot of dads fall into, where when something is in flux or when there is a crisis, they try to they have to solve something. They need to fix the problem through action. And this problem that this family is facing isn't necessarily about fixing the problem. It's about being there emotionally and from a support standpoint for your wife and your daughter and your family. And a lot of dads think, no, I need to fix this. I need to solve this. That's what's going to make this all better. And it's just a common trope that dads fall into, but it's just what I think men kind of want to do as fathers and as protectors. We want to just fix problems and protect our family from things. And this crisis that this family is going through isn't about that. It's just about, he just needs to be there. He just needs to talk to his wife and his daughter and should be there for him. And he's kind of missing that. I think he comes to a realization, to that, like most of the father characters do, or, in real life, a lot of dads do, I think. But yeah, I really appreciated that trope and that context set in this futuristic thing with this sci-fi aspect to it. Was just such a cool way to tell that story. And it was a really unique movie for that reason. And I really respected it for that. Just a really cool movie with great performances and good characters.
Nice. I will be talking about After Yang later, but well said. Yeah. That's
nice.
An interesting
Awesome.
angle. Yeah.
Yeah.
My number 7 is Park Chan-wook's Decision to Leave. It is a neo-noir kind of love story, detective story, and it's like I wrote in my Letterboxd review that it's enchanting in a way, and it's just it's got a ton of incredible cinematography and editing. But at its heart, it's about a detective who starts to fall in love with the woman who is a widow of a man who died, and potential suspect in his death. And the way the movie unfolds, it goes from this interesting area where he's finding himself attached to her, or he's finding himself kind of enchanted by her, and then the movie kind of pivots a little bit and shows the opposite side of that, with her kind of being like enchanted by him and everything. And it's just this very interesting, intricate kind of interplay between these two characters. And it has one of the more memorable endings I saw this year. And it just kind of puts this very, very interesting pin on the whole proceedings. So I don't know. I really liked it. Also, like just the editing techniques, the cinematography is just balls out crazy, like good. Like there are scenes where he's going through, he's talking through like what he's going to do to get a suspect for a case or something. And then as he's saying it over voiceover, the film cuts to him doing these things and pursuing this person, and like him pursuing a person on foot is framed in such a way that it's a wide shot of this like very, very big street, and you see him running and doing all of this crazy choreography and stuff. It's really, really effective, like storytelling and really cool, intricate stuff. So that's my number 7. That's Decision to Leave. And yeah. Mike, do you want to bring us into number 6?
Sure, number 6, and we have our first repeat.
Oh, nice.
Of the year of the episode. I'm going to be talking about The Whale.
Nice.
Which I have, I guess, a little higher than Matt.
Yeah.
But that's not relative. It just that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
So Darren Aronofsky and I don't always see eye to eye. Some of his more ethereal or esoteric offerings, I will just admit, they usually go over my head. But his arguably more grounded, or arguably his most grounded film, The Wrestler, is in upper echelon, 5-star movie for me. I love The Wrestler. So it's kind of not surprising that a movie that shares similar themes, grief, regret, self-harm, and it really wasn't until I started thinking about the Aronofsky movies that I like that I realized, like, man, The Whale is, in a sense, another version of The Wrestler. Similar paths for the characters. I won't say for anybody who hasn't seen it, but anyway, thinking about it now, The Whale and The Wrestler share a lot in common, but most of all is that it's grounded. It doesn't take one theme and just jam it down your throat, like say Mother does, which is not, doesn't quite work for me. And My Oh My is that ground haunting. Like Brendan Fraser's performance is just stunning, worthy of all the accolades, everything that's already been said. I echo that. There were moments that I thought were slightly out of step with the overall tone of the movie, like kind of one of the big scenes in the middle with the two younger actors. But Brendan Fraser's performance and his character's positivity, I think, kind of explained the teenage characters, like overselling how annoying teenagers can be. I think he is like they are the foil to his positivity, but his character spoke to me. That positivity spoke to me in a way that kind of elevated those performances. Like, you know, as a teacher and as a hope for other people junkie, like again, that like his attitude about life, even in his most desperate times, and even when kind of realizing the negative things that have been said about his daughter, especially by his daughter's mother, might be true. He errs on the side of positivity and hope and optimism for her and for other people. And so that, again, that speaks to my personal ethos. Number 6 is pretty high. And I'll admit, like, again, if we do the reshuffle a couple years in the future, I don't know that The Whale would really be in my top 6. But I was so deeply moved by it for a good couple of days after I saw it that I just wanted to talk about it today, frankly.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah. That kind of optimism that he has for humanity is intoxicating, honestly. It
is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's the juxtaposition of the sadness of what he's done to himself.
Yeah.
With his positivity for other people. That's heartbreaking.
Absolutely. Tiny, you're number 6.
Yeah, my number 6 is Glass Onion.
Nice.
And it doesn't follow the theme. It totally is. I think it's on a lot of top 10s. Matt, you said that you hope that Rian Johnson and Daniel Craig just stick with this and do as many movies as they want, really. I wholeheartedly agree. I want to see that too. I wish I could credit it to the correct person, but someone said that they want to see Daniel Craig do Benoit Blanc in a completely straight as Benoit Blanc with every other character being a Muppet.
Yes.
I would watch the shit out of that movie.
That would be awesome.
Written and directed by Rian Johnson, of course, has to be. That would be amazing. Yeah. So, Knives Out, Glass Onion is not, it's not as good as Knives Out. And I don't think it could be, but I really respect Rian Johnson for taking a similar formula to Knives Out and trying to add things into it and trying to reshape it a little bit. Because it's not a rehash at all, or a remake, reimagining, or anything. It's just he decided to sort of poke fun at some stuff. You know, I think he pokes fun at internet culture. He pokes fun at the mystery genre itself. And he's making fun of the billionaire class and all these kind of me culture people, which Mike was kind of touching on earlier. I love that he took this formula and just chose to add in some political or cultural commentary to it. And I think it worked really well. It was really entertaining. For me, especially because, like, I mentioned earlier, I'm really into creator content at the moment through like YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and all that jazz. And I don't apologize for it because I think there's some great content out there, but it's very easy to make fun of. And there's a lot of crap out there, really bad stuff out there. So I really loved like the Dave Bautista character. So over the top and ridiculous and just not
how great
at
is
all.
Dave Bautista?
Oh, he's
And we
incredible.
had no idea.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy, but before Guardians of the Galaxy, he was like just another wrestler. But like, my apologies to The Rock, but he's like the best post wrestling actor.
Oh, absolutely.
Or at least having the most fun with it.
Oh yeah, and
Totally.
I already love him for when him saying that leaving the MCU is beneficial to him because now he can do more like dramatic stuff and things. And I'm like, yeah, I'm all for that. He's incredible.
He's good.
Yeah.
And The Rock, the more I see from The Rock, the more I'm just like, that dude is.
Dude, he's lost the thread, man.
No, he's lost the thread. He doesn't know like what it is to be a performer. Like he doesn't like, I don't think he knows how to like actually act or anymore to like actually emote in a movie. But, and also he's very much like a snake oil salesman with all of his shit about Black Adam and everything and changing the hierarchy of the DC.
Yep.
Like, okay. Yeah. Anyway.
Totally. Yeah. The Rock is a performer, not an actor.
Yeah.
I think
he's the most electrifying wrestler of all time. I mean, he's a favorite for a reason.
He's a showman. Man. He is a showman through and through.
Yeah. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
But yeah, Dave Bautista. I'm so glad he's sort of transitioning away from the physical stuff and into more, because he can do it. I mean, and he showed it in this movie. It had the physical side to it as well, but in jest, which I think he fully embraced. I had the most fun with him in the movie, but I'm trying to decide which ensemble cast I like more. Is it this one or the first one? That's the only thing that I think this movie matches with the first one, is that the cast is phenomenal and they do such a good job. And I'm not sure which one I like more. I'd have to see both of them again, but Ryan Johnson, keep doing what you're doing, and bring Benoit Blanc back as much as you want. Yeah. Pardon the alliteration there, but it's just so much fun that if he keeps doing these, they're probably going to keep popping up on my top 10.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So
my number 6 is another.
That's the second time he's made a second movie in a franchise that's barely a sequel to the first one.
That's true. And both are incredible. So yeah.
Well, that's like your opinion, man.
Yeah. Last Jedi still the best Star Wars movie. My number 6 is, I know it's a low bar to top, but
clearly Matt's never seen Attack of the Clones.
I woke up a couple of times during it. Number 6 for me is the directorial debut of Charlotte Wells. It's Aftersun. It is a beautiful, beautiful movie of a father and daughter on a vacation at a resort, while like it is very carefully disclosing to us that the father is in the midst of a major mental health like breakdown. He is someone who suffers from some very heavy mental health issues, to the point that it's more just like it's his own internalized depression and everything. But what the movie does so brilliantly, in my opinion, is it takes the perspective of the young girl and just shows us, like, us as the audience, we know what's going on because we see like these little bits and pieces, but we kind of see it through the prism of this young girl. So like when she says like things, like there are scenes that are just like packed with so much emotion that are otherwise completely innocuous scenes. Like I can't remember the context exactly, but They were waiting to do karaoke, and he didn't want to do karaoke. So she mentions something about it, and he says like, well, when we get home, I can put you, I can try to get someone to give you like singing lessons or something, or instrument lessons or something like that. And then this young girl just says completely innocuously like, oh, you can't afford that. And like, you just see the devastation on the father's face because he knows that he can't provide that. And there is like the little moments like that are all over this movie. And it is such an interesting way to tell this story of this man who is completely out of his depth as a functioning adult, and to the point that like little things can be just incredibly devastating to him because he can't attain or he doesn't see a way that he can attain the level of fatherhood or adulthood that he would like to, just because of circumstances that are never really brought to surface in the movie. It's just this subtlety that's played out throughout it. And it's absolutely amazing. As a two-hander movie, these two actors are out of this world good. Like, these are two performances that are just astonishing to me. It's Paul Mescal and Frankie Corio. This movie like left such a profound impression on me, and I loved it. So that's Aftersun. It's my number 6. Really, really good. If you haven't seen it, check it out.
Top half,
Nice.
baby.
Yeah, here we go. Mikey, you want to bring
Number
us into number
5.
5?
Yeah, number 5 is BJ Novak's directorial debut, Vengeance.
Nice.
And Vengeance it's the Philistines' smart movie. It's a thinking man's movie for dummy dumbs. And I'm kind of a dummy dumb when it comes to smart movies. And so Vengeance and I are kind of on the same level. I feel like BJ Novak and I would get along at a party, or we wouldn't, because neither of us would want to be at a party. I guess I'm saying. What's weird is like, I don't love The Office, and I'm not crazy about him on The Office, but everything he's done post The Office is some of my favorite stuff. His short stories, he wrote a kid's book, and now his directorial debut, Vengeance, is in my top 5. So, kind of to go back to what I was saying, like, critics of the movie said that it was like a little too on the nose with its wokeness, like its whole, if we just sat down and talked to one another, we could fix this country, kumbaya vibe. But I think like it's those flaws. It's like that just try, that optimistic, why don't we at least try to talk to each other attitude that I connected with. So specifically, again, like, here's a movie that speaks directly to my ethics and my attitude. Like, aside from the movie's themes, by the way, the dialogue in Vengeance was some of my favorite stuff of the year. So, like, Ashton Kutcher in his kind of monologue-y bit in the middle is, I don't know that it's poetry, but it's kind of like a normal person who wants to be smarter kind of dialogue, and like, that's how I feel at times. So I really felt like it was speaking to me and my attitude about the world, about this country. Every scene with Kutcher in it like reminded me of why he's such a positive and charming presence in the movie biz. And honestly, I'm a little surprised the buzz around this movie died so quickly. People kind of stopped talking about it. It was a summer movie that doesn't really feel like a summer movie. This almost feels like if it got an October or November release, I think people would be talking about it at the end of the year a little bit more. But I loved it. It's the kind of movie that I don't know, if I ever made movies, mine would probably feel a little bit like this.
Nice.
Wow, that's a hell of an endorsement.
Yeah. I loved Vengeance, and again, gotta give credit. It is good podcaster representation, but
yeah, also, it was in my top 10, and it never budged.
Nice.
Like, there was never a question.
Nice.
it was not even on my radar. I wasn't even familiar with it.
wow.
So
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, they kind of overlooked it.
Mhm.
Check it out, Tiny. I think it'll be your vibe as well.
Yeah.
I'm sure I would. Yeah, sounds good.
Oh, absolutely.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and I reviewed it on episode 377 of the podcast with my friends Andy Carr and Joe Shearer from the IFJ. Yeah, that was really good. That's one that I need to revisit as well, just because. Yeah,
I'll rewatch that this year for sure.
absolutely. Tiny, how about your number 5?
My number 5, we are back on theme, is RRR.
Mm-hmm.
I had no clue what this movie was. Matt, I had never heard of it, and you brought it up. I was like, what is that? I haven't even heard of that. And holy crap, this is the most fun I had with a movie in 2022.
It's a blast.
Like,
Yep.
by far, so much damn fun. And I just keep coming back to the talent of the two main actors. Like, these guys are like ripped athletes. They dance amazingly, and they can sing. Like, they do everything. And like, I'm sitting there watching this movie, and these guys are just doing the most over the top badass stuff you can think of. And then this guy's being tortured, and he breaks into song. I'm like, why do I love this? This should be ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it just works. It just works. And I think part of it is that it's none of it's tongue in cheek. It's just they are being like, they're being serious to the point where like, this is just how they want to make this movie, but they're serious about the themes and emotions and the thoughts and the revisionist history of this movie. They take seriously, but they're just doing it in a really fun way, and it just worked so damn well. I'm not sure there's anything else I can say about this that other people haven't already said in better ways, but I cannot get over how much fun I had with this movie, and it just absolutely came out of nowhere. And I wrote a little blurb review about it on Letterboxd, and I said in that review, like, have I totally been sleeping on like Bollywood movies? Because I know that like that's kind of a fun thing they do in Bollywood movies, is people will break out into dance numbers and songs and stuff. But I didn't know how much I might like that until I saw this. And like I said in my review, like, I think I may be sleeping on Bollywood movies because I really loved this movie, and I'm going to have to check out some more because of this. This was just the biggest surprise and the most fun I had all year with the movie. RRR.
Nice.
The songs are also great.
Oh yeah,
they are.
Oh yeah,
totally.
Absolutely. Yeah, I loved it. I'll talk about it later.
A man picks up a motorcycle and uses it as a weapon. Like, what else do you need to, what other endorsement do you need to watch a movie?
I mean,
so
I was
good.
in at the tiger fight in the jungle.
Oh yeah.
That for me at the beginning, I was like, this is unreal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Totally.
I loved it.
And the practicality of some of that too, like that first major brawl with the police character,
Mm-hmm.
when there's like that riot kind of happening, and like I was like, I mean, I understand there's a lot of special effects, but like not a lot of in that scene, not a lot of like CGI. Like it's very practical. Like there were hundreds of extras that he like was going like fighting against. It was
choreography.
Cool.
Yeah, the choreography
like,
out of this
like,
world.
Pinpoint accurate choreography.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
totally fun.
It's insane. Yep. Yeah, and I'll talk about that later. My number 5. We're on number 5, right? Yeah.
Yep.
My number 5 is Everything Everywhere All at Once, which was reviewed on episode 367 with Mike.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, you and I reviewed it. That was the episode where
I didn't remember that until you said which we reviewed on the, and I was like, was I on that? I was like, I think that was me.
Yep. That was the episode where we unveiled the new theme song.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah. But yeah, Everything Everywhere All at Once is just balls to the wall, crazy, multiversal, family drama action movie it goes all over the place with some incredible performances. Like I love the performances all around, but to see the actor who played Waymond, sorry. I don't want to mess up his name. To see Ki-Hu Kwan, just have this, like, I don't know if you guys saw his speech when he won Best Supporting Actor at the Golden Globes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But oh my God, like I didn't bother watching any of the Golden Globes or anything, but I watched that one, and like that is just so earnest and so wholesome and genuine, and it's beautiful. But his performance is fantastic, and this movie has so many different elements to it that are just that they should not play as sincerely and grounded as they do, but because of the strength of the performances and the seriousness with which people take it in the movie, it makes a scene with rocks on a cliff talking to one another into this incredibly poignant emotional moment, and you don't really bat an eye at it. And I loved it. And the choreography was incredible. Just really, really good stuff. Again, we reviewed it on OV387. I also talked about it on Patreon at some point, but Everything Everywhere All at Once, really, really loved it. Just an absolute blast. Absolute blast. So that's my number 5. Yep.
And I feel like that movie was a shoe-in for my top 10, and I just totally missed it. I'm so disappointed that I missed this movie. Yeah.
I think Matt and I can confirm that it will be on your revised top 10 of 2020 for sure.
Oh yeah.
No doubt.
Yep. But Mike, how about your number 4?
Yeah, my number 4, another horror movie. It also might be the first time on a top 10 where 2 of my movies are from the same director.
Same director, same universe, too.
Same universe, yeah. Sequels to each other. So I'm talking about X, Ty West's first horror movie of the year, X. And I make no apologies for having so much horror, having slashers on my list. It's where I am right now. It is my favorite genre. And I mean, there are great movies being made, but none of them to me make the same like societal criticisms with the same amount of entertainment value, at least in terms of my tempo, as horror does right now. So anyway, another horror movie, another slasher, but an actual slasher movie this time, as opposed to Pearl, which is kind of debatable.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned earlier, I'm a big Ty West fan, and I think X might be his best movie yet. So on the surface, X is exploitive, it's gory, it's spooky, it's exciting, it's scary. And I would love it if that was all that it had to offer. But what works so well in X is Ty West's commentary on desirability and a person's agency over that attention. Eyes on them, the gaze, I think, is a thing we talk about a lot. But he is talking about sexuality as a positive thing and a thing that you have agency over. So Mia Goth, who also plays Pearl in Pearl, plays both Maxine, our main character in X, the final girl, the survivor girl, as well as Pearl, who is the main antagonist. There's a makeup job going on. So the 2 women are at opposite ends of the spectrum on their quest for desirability and sexuality. Maxine is on the brink of what she hopes will be her prime. There's a Maxine sequel, supposedly, coming out this year. And Pearl is an old woman whose dreams never came true. She's on the end of that spectrum. So to see the 2 of them clash with those motivations in mind, made for a more compelling than usual tete-a-tete between like the hero and the villain character. In the middle of that clash is Jenna Ortega's character. She'll show up twice on my list, who is like reluctantly desirable, but then claims her own agency and embraces her youth and sexuality. Like, it's a really cool spectrum of characters and social commentary on beauty, aging, and desire, and like fun kills, scary moments, lots of gore, but like to have like the movie's called X because they're filming an adult film, right? An X-rated movie. And there are scenes that are clearly X-rated, but it doesn't just use those X-rated moments as exploitive. It's talking about the agency of that desirability, and it also kind of makes you feel for the main villain because she's watching these people perform their agency of desirability, perform their sexuality, and realizing that her moment has passed. She wants to kill these young, sexy people.
Yeah, I loved that commentary throughout the movie. Like, it was, especially since the movie is kind of its own like pastiche for like 70s slasher,
right? Exactly,
movies,
yeah.
Which, as we learned from Scream, has this whole undercurrent of sexuality and virginity being a thing that protects people and everything that's never really spoken in those movies until Scream kind of put a spotlight on it. But to have that subverting of that with the villain of Pearl and X, that was just so captivating to me.
It is, and then the way that it pays off in Pearl, sorry to make this the Ty West podcast.
No.
The way that it pays off in Pearl kind of suggests that people have felt this way, and women have been this way in movies all along, and like we weren't talking about it until kind of too late, but they always wanted to be desired and wanted to have agency over their sexuality, and it's just a really cool character arc. And I can't wait to see the third one. So this is easy number 4. I know it's maybe an odd choice for a top 10, but I don't feel like I need to make excuses for this one.
No, I don't think that's odd at all. Nice.
Yeah, I really wanted to see this one.
Yeah, it's a good one. Tiny, nice. You're number 4.
My number 4 is Weird, the Al Yankovic story.
Nice.
Yeah, man, this was just so much fun. Weird Al Yankovic, the real guy, is famous for being just one of the nicest guys in the world. If you'd never hear about fan interactions that are negative from him. Any other famous people that meet him always have good things to say about him, even if they are mad that he kind of made fun of their music or something like that. He just doesn't have bad things to say about people. He's so nice and so kind and just has this really great image. It's so funny that he basically is really making fun of like musical biopics. And like not pulling punches. I mean, he's not being super cruel with this movie. I don't think he's being cruel. I'll give him that credit, but he is blatantly taking shots at the musician biopic movies that have been coming out lately.
Yeah.
Without question. And it's just so funny to see that kind of tone from him, from such a kind, nice guy, light-spirited kind of guy. It's all in jest and it's funny, but I was just really surprised that he went this route, and it worked so well. It was hilarious. I found myself cracking up so many times at this movie. I loved the casting choice of Daniel Radcliffe as young Weird Al. That's just, I mean, there's no one could perfectly play Weird Al. Like I'm trying to think of who could be cast better. Like there's no better choice, just because, and it's not because Daniel Radcliffe is such a good actor. He is, but it's just because he was Harry Potter, and like I don't know, it just makes sense to me that they cast him. I can't even put my finger on why it's so great.
I think there's an inherent dorkiness to Daniel Radcliffe, even as he's become an adult, and he's incredibly handsome, and he's just in peak physical condition. I mean, like, I don't mean that as a slight. Like, to be a dork is awesome, but like he's Harry Potter. He's kind of nerdy, so I think like knowing that about him with the juxtaposition of like every time he takes his shirt off and he's ripped, I think that is what's so perfect. I think that's what's so funny about it.
Right. Right. The movie really harkened back to like the kind of fun spoof parody movies of the 80s, like Top Secret and Hot Shots and Airplane and all that. It totally harkened back to that at a time when we really needed, I think. And, I have not been a major critic of the musician biopics. Like I've liked them. They have their flaws, and I see those flaws, and I criticize those flaws. But I've liked those movies, like Bohemian Rhapsody and the Elvis movie that came out this year. I mean, they're good movies, and I don't dislike them. But man, they really needed to be taken down a notch, and this movie really did that. To great effect. And I was a massive Weird Al fan growing up.
Nice.
I know he has a song that a lot of people don't know that's not a parody called Albuquerque, and it's like 12 minutes long, and I know every fucking word to that song.
Oh yeah.
I love Weird
Running
Al.
with Scissors.
Yes,
Nice.
exactly. I probably know that whole album. I love Weird Al, and like he's fantastic, and I'm just so happy that he made his movie, and like he got to make his movie. No one got in his way, and it's just so fun and goofy. I loved it.
And now everybody has the Roku app on their device that they'll never use again.
Yeah.
All the nerds have it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I Weird Al, when I saw Weird, it made my short list, and unfortunately it dropped because of everything
Sure.
everywhere all at once. But no, but it is the perfect, like it's not even something that's terribly it's fresh in and of itself, but it's something that like it's in league with like Spinal Tap, Pop Star, and Dewey Cox, and now we have this, and it's the perfect way to do a Weird Al movie. It's a parody movie. Like it's just it's brilliant. I loved it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
I actually saw Weird Al live last year.
Oh, nice.
No shit.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That's
cool.
so awesome. Nice. Shall I go into my number 4?
Do it,
Yes,
baby.
sir.
All right. So number 4, a movie that I wrote a review on the website. Again, check out my archive, obsessiveviewer.com/MattHurt 2022. And it was reviewed in episode 363 of the podcast with our own Mike White. And I also did immediate reaction reviews on Patreon. It's Scream 22, 5 Cream. You scream, we all scream for 5 Cream. I love it as both a tribute to Wes Craven, a tribute to the franchise, and a just absolutely fun slasher whodunit. I watched it 7 times in 2022. I'm going to watch it several times this year, including for a commentary track with Mike for Patreon. But this is a movie that this franchise, Scream franchise, is near and dear to my heart. It is imprinted on my soul because of what it's done for me as a person. We would not be here doing this if I hadn't watched Scream at the time that I did and just grappled to it. Like the 3 of our lives would be completely different on this date because I saw Scream in 1996 on video, or maybe early 1997. I don't know. But anyway, so to have a movie come out, the 5th installment from the only installment where until March, that's not directed by Wes Craven, have it just hit so hard and be so good. It was an absolute just rocket ship of emotion for me. And there hasn't been a sequel to Scream that has left me so excited and nervous for the surviving characters. Like I think of like Scream 4, like Scream 4 is fine. It's fine. But there's like even with fan favorite Kirby, Like, she's a great character and everything, but there's nothing from Scream 4 or Scream 3 for that matter that I want to come out or to be serviced in. So for Radio Silence to make Scream as a tribute to the franchise, as in reverence for the franchise with love, and have like do our legacy characters, like do them right and do them with care, and introduce just a new batch of just fun teenage knife fodder, is just so good. And the final thing I'll say about this, because I know that it's going to come up later as well, is that it also does this incredible, clever thing of recognizing that the Stab franchise in the Scream universe is not. It's not just a thing for the films to reference themselves in. It is at this point, 25 years into this franchise, it is its own mark of slasher horror fiction in this universe. And they use that. They use the fandom of Stab as this vessel for like internet fandom and horror fandom and not horror fandom, because horror fandom is incredible, but like for just like this toxicity and everything. It's so good. I loved it so much, and I can't wait for Scream 6. And like I'm in the position now, going into Scream 5, I was thinking I'm so excited for this movie, but I'm nervous for the legacy characters because something's going to happen, I'm sure. And then now I'm going into Scream 6 thinking like, oh, the survivors from Scream 5, I love these characters. I'm nervous that something's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
that's cool.
I just love being in that position. So anyway, Scream 2022 is my number 4 favorite movie of the year. I adore it, and yeah, it's great. So that's my number 4.
Cool.
Whew.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I liked Scream. I don't hold it in the same regard that you guys do. I totally like the franchise, and this was a great entry. I was positive on it. And I'm also a big fan of the meteoric rise of Jenna Ortega.
Oh,
I think
me
she's
too.
gonna continue to impress all of us for years. She's really, I haven't watched Wednesday yet, but it's on my list. But yeah, Scream was great. I think I love that you talked about fandom so much, because that was my favorite thing in the movie, and I feel like Scream has always been about that. Like even in the first movie, there's toxic fandom in that movie, but well before it was even a thing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean,
that's a good point.
And obsessive movie fans.
Yes.
You know, that's a theme that Scream has always been really good at. So I really respect the franchise for that and like it as well.
Yeah. And I will say this, Scream, the first one came out in 1996. It's about obsessive fans of something. They did not have podcasts to channel that into. So that's why they turned to that. But anyway, that's my number 4.
For Matt Hurd, it was either a microphone or jail. So.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Here we are.
Yep.
That's good. That's funny. I like that one.
Yep. Top 3. Mike, do you want to bring us into the top 3?
Yeah. Number 3 is, Matt, you already talked about it. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. And we did a podcast episode, so I don't confuse my brevity for trying to rush through this. I just we've already talked it to death, but it's easily the most emotionally impactful movie on my list.
Nice.
It's the best example of how great a year it was for movies, that like a multiverse movie about an immigrant mother in her 60s is one of the most buzzworthy and powerful movies of the year. Like I think what's so special about it is also like how surprising it is that it was excellent. The fight scenes and comedic bits were some of the most impressive moments at the movies this year. But what I love more than anything else is the movie's message in finding meaning in the seemingly meaningless. Like life can sometimes feel pretty meaningless, and the urge to go on, you sometimes have to find those reasons elsewhere. And this movie's kind of about that. The power of familial love, the absence that a person can feel when the meaninglessness of life makes human connection difficult or even possible. Like the fact that it just played with so many of those themes, parenthood, and then just good kung fu action. And like, what is existence? What is being? What is this universe that we're living in? There were a lot of ideas, and I still don't know that I understood all of it. But it's definitely a movie I'm excited to see again. This movie leapt onto my top 10 list, and it never budged.
Nice. And it's one that, yeah, I wish that I had time. Well, I did have time, but I wish I had prioritized rewatching it before I finalized my top 10, really. But it is one of those that's going to stick with me for a while, and I'm going to revisit it. Definitely,
for sure.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah. Tiny, your number 3.
My number 3, to absolutely no one's surprise, is All Quiet on the Western Front. If you go back to 2019, my top movie of the year was 1917. That was my favorite movie. Either my number 1 or number 2 favorite movie of the decade.
Oh yeah.
Of that decade. So I talked about World War I and how it's such a fascinating subject to me. And I had never seen the original All Quiet on the Western Front, never read the book or anything. But I really want to after seeing this. This was really brilliant. I was blown away by the imagery and what they were able to accomplish with the movie. Especially over 100 years after this conflict. It's really incredible. I have criticisms of it. Most notably, the music was just, it felt so off-tone to me. I was so kind of disappointed in that, frankly, and it kind of took me out of a few moments of the movie. And that is my major criticism of it. But other than that, I was really blown away. I love how it, as opposed to 1917, it has, it's less narrative driven and less story driven, and it's more of a sort of a, it's not vignettes either, but it's more of a collection of events. I respect it for that, because I feel like that's a little more representative of what war can be, especially something as back and forth and stalemate-ish as World War I was. There's malaise, there's pure violence, there's tragedy, there's all the major themes that played out in this conflict are captured beautifully in this movie, and I really appreciate it for that. Just all around fantastic movie. Really made me want to see the original, and I'm glad that this conflict is still relevant, especially in the West where it's so underrepresented. All Quiet on the Western Front. Ben Sears made a joke earlier in the year. He was like, so I just saw All Quiet on the Western Front, aka Tiny's favorite movie of the year. I was like, you're probably right. So here we are at number 3 to no one's surprise.
Nice.
It was really good.
Nice. I found it to be so interesting in that it's kind of the, I think I wrote on Letterboxd that it's kind of like the anti-1917, because it is, it's all about like the complete unglamorization, I guess, if that's a word. But no, it doesn't glamorize it. It is an anti-war film. And it is just in stark contrast with the messaging and the vibe of 1917, that it's such an interesting kind of companion piece to it in a sense. And it get bleak. It's really something. Yeah.
There's zero glory in the movie.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Awesome.
Yeah. Yep. So that brings me to my number 3. It's a movie that Tiny has already talked about. I did do a Patreon review of it, but it is After Yang. Man, like everything you talked about, Tiny, is on point, and that's such an interesting perspective to bring to it, about like fatherhood narratives and everything. The thing that I was most captivated by with After Yang is the human element of it, and how it's about a family grieving an android, and it's about figuring out or learning in death what someone who was an important part of your life was in their life. So it is just this deep dive into the humanity of this character, of this android after he's gone. And it is such a provocative and emotional journey as Colin Farrell's character is just learning all of this information. And there's these whole things that you don't know about, and that he didn't know about in his life. And there are these perfect moments of like memories of him talking about tea with Yang, and it's a beautiful, beautiful story. And it's some really great, really great science fiction at its heart as well. So I loved it. It's After Yang. It's my number 3.
I don't know how I missed that movie.
Yeah.
It never came to Evansville.
Yeah.
I went by me.
Yeah, and I think if it was streaming somewhere more open, it would be on the radar. But I think it's available on like Showtime. So
right.
Yep. Yeah. So Mike, do you want to bring us to the penultimate? Your number 2.
Top 2. Here we go.
Yes.
What a year for entertaining movies. Huh?
Oh yes.
Just like fun at the movies. Tiny, I'm talking about Top Gun Maverick as my number 2. And there was a moment, there was a second the day after I saw Top Gun where I thought, was that the most fun I've had at the movie all year?
Nice.
It was one of the most entertaining movies I can remember this century. Like
Wow.
watching a movie on the edge of your seat, always, that like sounds like such a cliche, but I literally did this watching the climax of Top Gun, all while knowing exactly what was going to happen. Even the kind of like the beginning conversation, the dogfight that he has. I don't want to spoil too much. But like that sets the third act into motion, was so compelling and exciting, knowing exactly what was going to happen. So all of Tom Cruise's real life peculiarities aside, like he may very well be the last movie star. And it seems like he bears that responsibility with unmatched enthusiasm. Actors and directors who work with him talk about like how specifically he thinks about the audience's reactions to specific scenes. And I don't think it's worked more in a Tom Cruise movie than it did in Maverick, which, by the way, Tiny, I know you kind of were not sure about this. I think it exceeds the original in every conceivable way.
Oh, yeah.
The characters, though essentially copies to the originals, they're fun, they're fully cooked, they're interesting. But the best part, and the reason this movie is my second favorite movie of the year, are just those dogfight scenes. Like they're so incredible and so much fun to watch. Like they're stunning. They are take your breath away, nail biting, action packed, and I just loved every second of it from the edge of my seat. Yeah,
it didn't make my list or anything, but I will say here and now that like. Yeah, Tom Cruise, and I've said this before, Tom Cruise is, his personal life, batshit insane, Scientology, evil, all that stuff. But there is not a person in the industry that I'm aware of that is more committed to just the art of the blockbuster and the art of spectacle on film.
Big movies.
Yeah. Like and I think I said this before somewhere, but there was that 9-minute behind the scenes video of the big stunt that's going to be in Dead Reckoning Part 1 this year, where he rides a motorcycle off a cliff and parachutes down. They released a 9-minute and like 15-second video of the background of that, like the behind the scenes, him practicing, him doing all of these things. And I sat there and I watched that entire behind the scenes thing, and immediately went to my Vudu account and watched the last 3 Mission Impossible movies back to back to back. Like, I could not, like, it's just, that's the effect that it has on me. So I loved Top Gun Maverick. Even as someone who has literally, like, I have no allegiance to the original Top Gun. Like, even the big emotional beat and it fell on deaf ears for me. But seeing Top Gun Maverick kind of retroactively made me care about that moment in the first one. And it's great to see, like, an action spectacle blockbuster movie with Tom Cruise where he actually has, like, a good arc, like a good, like, character arc.
Yeah, right. Yes. Yep.
So yeah, so I really liked it, but it didn't make my list. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Ethan Hunt has had his character arc.
Yeah.
Right? There's nowhere to go for that character.
Right.
It was cool to offer Maverick a chance to evolve.
Yeah. Some, like, nuance to it.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, that is your number 2, Mike. Tiny. What is your number 2 movie of 2022?
My number 2 is The Northman. The latest from Robert Eggers. I think there's a bit of an evolution. I don't want to say an evolution for action movies going on, but I feel like some of the best action movies coming out are more than action, and I think this is an example of that, because there is some badass action in this movie. There's one of my favorite scenes of the whole year is the Berserker scene, where Alexander Skarsgård is just full on possessed warrior. And it is phenomenal. It's so awesome. But then there's he also, his character has so much depth, and he's more than just a barbaric warrior. And I think there's a lot of themes that are touched on in this movie. The Vikings and Nordic culture is very spiritual, and I think this movie is an excellent representation of that. I love the visuals and how there's almost like limited dialogue in this. There's plenty of dialogue, but I feel like it's so, like, Robert Eggers chose his words very carefully, and, like, he chose to show us so much, especially the final climax of the movie. Not a lot of talking, a lot of action, and a lot of visuals that wrap up stories. And it's amazing how his ability to do that is really incredible. He does it in all his movies. And this was just unexpectedly good for me. I thought it was just going to be a bit of a popcorny action movie, but I feel like it is a action movie that's wrapped up in a love story to North and Viking mythology package, and coupled with an incredible cast, really good acting. I love Alexander Skarsgård. I think about how far he's come from a kind of a little bit over the top, goofy looking vampire in True Blood back in the day when I first saw him for the first time. Was fine in that role, and I think you can criticize him, but man, from Big Little Lies to something like this, he is a damn good actor, and I think he's a little bit slept on, believe it or not. I think he is underused in Hollywood. I think he's a really great actor, and I love him in everything. Anya Taylor-Joy also on a meteoric launch over the last year or two. Cannot totally enthused with her as an actor. Just really cool movie that I was not expecting to be this good. And Robert Eggers hit it out of the park again, and will probably continue to do so.
Nice.
Yeah, Eggers is 3 for 3 for me. I didn't love that. This one's probably my least favorite of the 3. Didn't make my list, but I'm still fully on board and excited for everything he does.
Yeah, same here. The brutality of it is just so visually cool and very interestingly done and intricate, but the story behind it is just really cool too. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yep.
So now my number 2 is a movie that we've talked about already. both of you guys have talked about it. It is RRR. And I will I'll be brief about it because we've already talked about it and everything. But when I first saw this movie, the entire time I was thinking, I don't know how there could possibly be a better movie that comes out this year. I just don't know how it's possible. I had just the biggest, dumbest grin on my face the entire time. And I wrote on Letterboxd that, let's see what I rated it 5 stars. I put, every year, certain movies contain 1 or 2 incredible sequences that get talked about through the rest of the year. RRR is 3 hours and 4 minutes of those sequences. Like, it is the escalation. It doesn't even escalate. It's like, it's just there.
It stays there.
Yeah.
It stays there.
It is insanity. Like, it is absolute insanity. And, like Tiny, you touched on this, like the Bollywood aspect of it. Like, that's something I'm not familiar with, but I want to be more familiar with it now because it's just entrancing. It's so good. And it was just like the energy of it just was never, ever, ever dipped for me. It's incredible. And the choreography, the soundtrack, everything about it is just insanity level precision. I loved it so much.
Yeah. Again, I don't really know much about Bollywood cinema either, but we were just talking about Tom Cruise, and the way I understand it, that was like Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt of Bollywood.
Oh yeah.
Right? I mean, those are 2 of the biggest actors in Hollywood, kind of doing the same, having the same responsibility for movie in their country. Doing basically their version. I mean, it's not Top Gun. It's not at all, but doing their version of peak action cinema.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right.
Just incredible. Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's my number 2. And Mike, shall we go into our number 1s of the year?
Number 1. My favorite movie of 2022. Of course it's Scream. Of course it's Scream. I mean, what else could it have been? It was Scream as soon as the calendar turned to 2022. It was Scream as soon as I saw Scream. It was Scream as soon as Jenna Ortega was attacked in her kitchen, despite the fact that nobody has a landline anymore. It was always Scream. It was always Scream. I didn't see Scream 22 on many year-end lists, and I didn't see it at the top of any lists. And okay, if I'm being objective, sure, it's maybe not the most inspiring or important movie of the last year. Like when I scroll through my list, it's like they all had something to say thematically. They spoke to my personal ethos. They criticized society in some way. They have Tom Cruise in them. I don't know. This is the least important movie, and I fully understand that. But the Scream franchise is, well, debatably my favorite film franchise. And when I think about the movies that I consider my favorites, like, they're the ones that keep me up at night after I watch them. They're the ones that just have that je ne sais quoi, that, like, I can't explain why I'm so emotionally invested in the experience that I just had. Like, they're the ones that I can't seem to let go of after the credits roll. It's not that I want to live in that world, like the cliche can kind of be. I don't want to live in the world of Scream, given its perpetually high rate of gruesome murder, but I want to be with the characters longer. Matt, kind of like you said, I'm curious to see where these characters go next. I didn't rewatch a lot of 2022 movies this year, but I watched Scream 22 twice in theaters and then again at home, just to feel the magic I felt the first time, just to feel that feeling of thinking about it as I laid in bed that night. It's such a loving homage and tribute to Wes Craven. The new characters are charming and unique. The kill sequences are some of the best in the franchise. If there's a complaint about this movie, it's that its satirical targets and the meta text are so effective. They actually render some of the elements of Scream 4 a tad moot.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that later.
Mhm.
I just loved Scream, and talking about it now makes me want to watch it again.
Yep.
Of the movies on this list, there's absolutely no doubt it's the movie I will watch the most later on. So when I thought about what is my movie of the year, not that I ever debated that this wouldn't be the number one. It's the one I'm certain I'll watch in the future,
Mhm.
right? I have to give weight to that. And B, it's the movie I lay in bed at night thinking about because of the way I am emotionally invested in that movie. And
Mhm.
Scream 2022 was top of the pops for me.
Nice. Yeah.
Sweet.
And I feel like it's sacrilege for me to put it at number 4. Honestly.
It's a little yeah, I mean,
yeah.
it's whatever you want. Like your criteria doesn't have to be the same.
No, yeah.
Like I'll say this, and I want the audience to understand. I don't think Matt feels any less for Scream 22 than I do.
Oh, exactly.
I just think our lists have different criteria.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
No, I agree. But yeah, well said though. It's just it's great. I loved it. So yeah.
Thanks.
Now Tiny. Now this is in the Obsessive viewer history. This is the third consecutive year where two of us have had the same number one, and it is the first time since 2015 where you and I, Tiny, have had the same number one. So I will go ahead and let you reveal both of our number one movie of 2022.
My number one is Marcel the Shell with Shoes On.
Yes.
And this drives home the theme of, the way I put it is what right does this movie have to absolutely charm the shit out of me so much that I could not stop thinking about it for a couple days. This would be, if I had seen all the other movies I wanted to see, this would be a top 2 or 3 again. Like I absolutely adored this movie. I could not take my eyes off of it. And I am so shocked. I was familiar with the character of Marcel the Shell. I had seen some of the shorts and stuff. I really like Jenny Slate, and I think she's really funny. She's a pretty visionary comedian. So I was familiar with it, and I had not experienced the level of charm that they achieved in this movie. That is the word I cannot get away from, is just how astoundingly charming this movie was. And I think it's rooted in the character of Marcel and Jenny Slate's interpretation of that character. It's so just adorably genuine, I guess. I don't even know how to pinpoint why it's so charming, but it is. I think the wonder of Marcel is, and the positivity of Marcel, and the joy of that character. It's just amazing that I can get that level of emotional response from a little stop motion shell that I think originally Dean Fleischer Camp, like, I think the first Marcel was like a shell that he found in a craft store or something, and he just like saw it and was like, what if that was an animated personified character and a thing? And that's where it came from. And how that turned into such a gut-wrenching and adorable and charming little character is just beyond me. That someone can pull that out of their head and put it into, at his time, his wife's head, to turn it into a character and have her be that character. That blows me away. The creativity of this movie is just unbelievable, and it's fun as well, and it's emotionally gut wrenching. I was so shocked at how good this was. It's really, it has no business being a top 10, but it is my number one because I thought about it for days. It's one of the only movies I saw this year that really sat with me, and it sat with me more than anything else. It was just a beautiful, adorable, and charming movie.
Yes. Cosign. No, everything you said, absolutely. It's obviously my number one as well. I don't think there is a more special movie for my taste that came out in 2022 that I saw. And what I mean by that is, like you said, Tiny, everything about the just making up, the thought that went into it is just escapes me. But at its heart, the story that's told in this movie is like, it transcends anything that was in the shorts on YouTube or anything. And it becomes this incredibly moving tale of empathy, grief, and the power of family and community and the need for that. And there were moments throughout this entire movie, like the entire movie had me like not only tearing up, not only crying, but by the end of it, I was sobbing. I was sobbing in tears because of the power of the like I said, the sense of community, the grief, the search for family, and all of that is just packaged together in this incredibly charming character. And even without that, like that, it just tells this incredible story about everything that I've said. And as a huge diehard fan of Leslie Stahl, I'm kidding. I did like the 60-minute stuff and everything, but it's so charming, and the payoff at the end is one of the most emotionally satisfying moments that I had watching any movie this year. And I adore it so much. So that's my number one as well. Marcel the Shell with shoes on.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I will say to you guys the same thing I asked my students when they asked me if I liked the Batman. I'm glad that you guys liked it.
Nice.
Fair enough. So those are our top 10s for 2022. I have a couple other segments real quick that we'll breeze through and then we'll be done. Cause I know we're going over our time, but yeah, that's our top 10s and everything. I want to kind of start wrapping up and have us share some titles that we're looking forward to this year. If we want to rapid fire just the titles, Mike, do you have anything that you're looking forward to in 2022 or 2023?
Yeah. You know, I was racking my brain trying to think about what I'm excited for in 2023. More than anything, it's Scream 6.
Yep.
Which is now officially called Scream 6. We don't have to call it Scream 23 or anything like that. But other than that, everything pales in comparison. I mean, I'm sure that I'll find some things that I'm looking forward to, but in terms of like the big spectacles that will kind of speak to like the child in me, there's no Spider-Man movie coming out. There's no well, okay, I mean Spider-Verse for sure, but yeah, I mean there's no live action.
Gotcha.
There is
gotcha.
I guess I'm excited. I don't know. I'm not that excited for Spider-Verse. I don't know. I love the first one so much, but I just I'm a dummy dumb. I don't get super excited for animated movies all that much. Inherently I just don't. So Scream more than anything.
Nice. Tiny, do you have any movies in 2023 you're looking forward to, and why are they called Dune Part 2?
Yeah, that's the big one. As long as it does come out this year, we'll see. I'm a little skeptical. Guardians of the Galaxy, is that coming out this year?
Just in a few months, really, I think. Or like April or May.
That's another one. Ant-Man and the Wasp, still it's probably going to be really fun. But I'm very out of touch with what's coming up next year. Unfortunately, but I know there's going to be some good ones. We'll see. Yeah,
for me, I have a whole list. I'm cautiously curious about Knock at the Cabin. Shyamalan is hit or miss, and when he's miss, he's very miss.
I love that book a lot.
Yeah.
I just don't trust Shyamalan anymore.
Yeah, I'm curious what it's gonna be, because Dave Bautista, and it'll be interesting. I'm seeing it for Dave Bautista more than Shyamalan. But also Ant-Man and the Wasp, Creed 3, I'm very curious about. I think it looks good. Scream 6 is the big one. That's the most anticipated one. And I do want to highlight a couple of movies, Fast X and Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. These are two just top-tier blockbuster franchises that are having presumably or potentially their final outings be a two-part installment for it. So Fast X is going to be the penultimate thing, and Fast 11, whenever that comes out, is going to be the next one, and that's supposed to be the end of the franchise. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Parts 1 and 2 are supposed to be the send-off of Ethan Hunt. So it's just weird that we're in this place where these two big franchises have this, but I'm very curious about it. I'm very excited for it. Dune Part 2.
Remember when they brought Jeremy Renner in to he might be the next one?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then finally, there is Please Don't Destroy. It's just titled Untitled Please Don't Destroy Project. It doesn't have a title yet, but the guys, Please Don't Destroy, they do SNL like digital shorts and stuff. I'm a big fan of them, and I'm curious to see what they do in a feature film. So those are my anticipated ones for 2023. And shall we send it off with our big thing that we tallied up?
Do it.
Okay.
Totally.
So now that we have, I was very cautious. I wanted to say with our big announcement, but I didn't want people to think oh my God, they're ending the podcast.
Oh no.
No, I'm still breathing.
We'll be back.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm still breathing. The podcast is still going. That's my pledge to everyone.
Mantra. Yes.
So in the time span that we've had the podcast, next month will be the 10-year anniversary of ObsessiveViewer.com, and June 15th will be the 10-year anniversary of the first time that we recorded an episode of the Obsessive Viewer podcast. So in those 10 years, we have done 10 top 10 lists of the year. And so I am very anal retentive, and I went ahead and made a list of all the movies that appeared on all of our lists over the years. And I basically assigned points to them, and then I took the top 20 of those movies, and I gave that list to you guys for you guys to make a top 10 ranked list of that selection of 20. So I assigned more points to that after that. And now we have I don't know what exactly I'm going to call it, but Obsessive Viewers top 10 from 10 years of podcasting list.
Which he didn't share with Tiny or me yet.
I didn't.
So I'm curious to see what's on this.
Yeah. And here's the thing.
Just called the 10 for 10.
Yeah, 10 for 10. There we go.
10 for 10.
Yeah.
Love it.
Oh yeah. So, I will say this, I'm going to count down the 10 on the list in ranked order, from the points and everything we have. But what I'm going to do is in the show notes of the episode, which is in your podcast app or at obsessiveviewer.com/OV388, I'm going to have the top 20 ranked list. So on the podcast, I'm just going to do the 10, but you'll see the full one on the show in the show notes of the full 20. So Without further ado, our 10 for 10 from 10 years of podcasting, 2013 to 2023, years in reviews from 2013 to 2022. Number 10 is Star Trek Into Darkness, which is surprising. Number 9, Captain America, The Winter Soldier.
Love it.
Yep. Number 8 is Star Wars, The Force Awakens.
Love it.
Number 7 is 8th Grade.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We loved that. We loved that movie that year.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Number 6 is Hereditary.
Yeah. Oh, baby.
Yeah. Number 5 is It, Chapter 1.
Uh-huh. Yep.
Number 4 is Arrival.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are all movies I've watched again since.
Yeah.
I just watched Arrival.
Yeah,
Nice.
They fit the criteria.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the top 3, at number 3, I'm so delighted. Number 3 is Dr. Sleep. I'm just so happy about that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that movie was rad.
It's so good. So good. And I'm happy about it because at the time there were people that weren't fans of it, and it bummed me out because it's so special.
Yeah.
And then the top 2, number 2 is Spider-Man No Way Home. which isn't a surprise. And number one is
number one,
not going to surprise anyone. It's Avengers Endgame.
Endgame, yeah.
A
cool.
roller coaster theme park experience, as Mike said it.
Well, there's just nothing like it.
No.
And I don't think there ever will be. I think if the Marvel Cinematic Universe as it is now is any indication, we'll never experience anything like that ever again.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, never.
Yep.
I still think back to Mike's review of Endgame when we did our end of year in 2019.
Yep.
I still think about it because I'm like, fuck, he called me out and he was so right. Like that should have been my number one movie.
I didn't even mean to call you. I'm sorry.
Well, no, you called everybody out because you were like, if you you're lying to yourself that this wasn't the best movie of the year, and you're totally right because I've watched that movie like 8 times.
Oh, absolutely,
more than anything else. I mean,
I'm ashamed that I had it. I have on my list for 2019. I have Avengers Endgame at 1, 2, 3, 6. Number 6. What?
Yeah, I mean,
hey, I fully admit I'm wrong.
Wow,
Mike, you're a prophet.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think I place very highly immediate, not immediate because that's kind of not what I'm doing, but just the entertainment value and there's
staying
something
power
to be said in staying power, and there's something to be said for the quality of movies. I love great movies. Like Banshees of Inisherin is a great movie. That's a great movie. But like I will never watch it again. And I can just always tell. I can tell when I'm just never gonna watch it again. And for me, movies are fun. And my favorite ones are the ones I want to watch again. I like Back to the Future. I mean, great themes, really long-lasting, compelling, great characters, but like it's undeniably rewatchable. There's nothing. We've never experienced anything like Endgame, and I could tell that was going to be an all-time favorite.
Yeah. And it's amazing because, like I said earlier in this podcast, that I'm looking forward to Ant-Man and the Wasp and Quantumania because I'm excited for Kang the Conqueror. I'm excited for like Phase 5 to begin and like really get the multiverse saga into focus and everything. And I realize and I admit wholeheartedly that this is me chasing that feeling that I got at Endgame because I want to be wowed like I was with Endgame at the end of like I want the Kang dynasty to be as big and expansive and huge and monumental as Endgame. I don't think that it will because it just can't be, but I'm hoping. Yeah. So anyway,
that's a cool list. That's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your number one in 2019, Matt?
Marriage Story, which I stand by. I loved Marriage Story. I mean, that was a great year anyway. I had Marriage Story, Parasite, Knives Out, Dr. Sleep, The Lighthouse, and then Avengers Endgame.
Oh, those are all pretty great.
I still think that was the best year of the decade for movies.
Oh yeah, I think it's definitely up there.
Oh,
I think 2019 was the best year of that decade.
Well, and we feasted, and then 2020 happened.
Yes.
And Invisible Man is great, but that would not be my favorite movie any other year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I think that was Invisible Man was on our. I think that's in the 20, isn't it?
Yes.
It is because it was both our number ones.
It was right. Yeah.
Yep. Which is respectable. Yeah. I liked it. Yeah. So, all right. Shall we close it out, guys?
Wrap it up.
Our 10th time doing this year in review. That's amazing. So thank you to the listeners for another year of supporting the podcast. Thank you guys for indulging me in doing this and everything throughout the year. I'm really excited for like what is to come this year. I'm hoping that we have a lot of good stuff, which I'm sure we will. It'll be fun. But there's going to be a lot of podcast content coming your way in 2023. Of course, the Obsessive Viewer isn't all that we do. You can check out my solo podcast, Anthology, where I review The Twilight Zone and other sci-fi anthology shows. And you can hear Tiny and myself on Tower Junkies, talking all things Stephen King. And of course, there are literally hundreds and hundreds of exclusive episodes across all of the podcasts on Patreon at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. And again, you can find links to all of this in the show notes as well, and an archive of all of my 2022 work at obsessiveviewer.com/matthurt2022. And if you'd like to check out the stuff I am doing this year, find that at obsessiveviewer.com/matthurt2023. And before we go, Mike, do you want to tell us where we can find you online and where we can find As Good As It Gets and what's in store?
Yeah, As Good As It Gets Music, asgoodasitgetsmusic.com, as.good.as.it.gets.music on Instagram. You can find all the links there. Linktree / As Good As It Gets Music. As Good As It Gets Music is what you want to search if you want to find all of it. Or just look for us on Spotify, As Good As It Gets.
Nice. I love the work that you do, Mike. And
thanks, man.
Should we say what you're working on? Is that okay to say what is happening?
The album?
No, the other thing.
What else am I working on?
Anthology. Anthology. A theme song for Anthology.
Oh, dude, I'm sorry. Yeah, working on a theme song for Anthology. Yes. Sorry. Dude, the album is taking up...
Oh, no, I totally get it.
Bonus stuff, but like getting the mixes and the masters and the art and getting it all, it's like my brain is full.
No, I totally get it.
Yes, I am also... We are working on the... Dustin and I are working on the theme song to Anthology.
Hell yeah. I'm excited for that. And and Tiny... happy birthday.
Oh yeah, happy birthday, man.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate
it. Where can people find you online and everything?
The best place is at Obsessive Tiny on Letterboxd. I do log everything on there. So yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Well, I'm going to start playing us out because it is late, and I'm going to post this on Patreon. Patreon got access to this a few days in advance. You guys are listening to this on the main feed on Thursday, I believe. So another incentive to join Patreon, patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. Thank you guys so much for another great year of podcasting and movie watching. Mike, Tiny, I love you guys, and
love you too.
Can't wait to do more shit like this with you.
Totally.
Yeah. All right. Well,
here's to 10 more.
Yes. Obsessive forever.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode. And now, enjoy this short clip from our Patreon exclusive RSS feed. For the full clip and more exclusive Patreon content, such as early access to episodes, TV, book, and movie reviews and reaction recordings, commentary tracks, and Patreon potpourri episodes, go to patreon.com/obsessiveviewer and become a patron at the minimum rate of $1 per month. Thank you and enjoy. Here's usually where I go to talk about like, oh, movies I'm looking forward to next month. But I do want to continue the stats breakdown and share some 2022 year-end stats. These are stats for the entire year of 2022. So let me just go into it. Podcasting stats. Obsessive Viewer. Throughout all of 2022, I released 27 episodes of Obsessive Viewer with a total audio runtime of 2 days, 6 hours, 57 minutes, and 58 seconds. And for Anthology, I released 23 episodes, which amounted to 1 day, 6 hours, 57 minutes, and 6 seconds worth of audio. And finally, for Tower Junkies, we released 9 episodes, which amounted to 13 hours, 37 minutes, and 54 seconds. So if you're listening to this and you listened to all of those episodes, you listened to 59 episodes of podcasts that I put out into the world in 2022, and I was in your ear holes for a total runtime of 4 days, 3 hours, 32 minutes, and 59 seconds. So Thank you. And I'm sorry. But no, thank you very much. Very proud of the output that I had on the podcasting front in 2022. And then some writing stats, just really quickly. I posted 22 written pieces on obsessiveviewer.com, and I had 17 pieces published on other outlets, including 4 essays on Midwest Film Journal, 6 essays on the moviestate.com, Ben's website, thank you, Ben, and 7 published reviews on nuvo.net, which I got paid for, which was awesome. So that was a total of 39 published pieces of film writing on the internet in 2022. And so now let me go on to Patreon stats. And I have these set up by tier. So basically, I'm going to start at 10 and go to 1. So throughout all of 2022, if you are, as you guys are, on the $10 tier, throughout all of 2022, all Patreon content was available to you guys. Throughout 2022, I released a total number of 148 episodes on Patreon of varying topics, varying things. That was a total audio runtime of 4 days, 15 hours, 36 minutes, and 22 seconds. So on Patreon, I released what is 15? Okay, I released 12 hours more worth. Okay. I released the same amount that I put on the main podcast feeds, plus 12 hours. So the same amount of hours. So basically, yeah, it's insane. It's insane. So that's all on all tiers. At the $10 tier, you guys got 4 days, 15 hours, 36 minutes, and 22 seconds worth of audio. On the $5 tier, which does not include like the audio testing episodes that you guys get and the monthly stats that you're listening to right now. Without those, the $5 tier got 135 episodes, which was 4 days, 6 hours, 23 minutes, and 52 seconds worth of audio. And then if you take out the like the Patreon potpourri episodes, special episodes, and commentary tracks that the $5 tier gets, the $2 tier had access to 116 episodes throughout the year, totaling 3 days, 6 hours, 42 minutes, and 25 seconds. And finally, the $1 tier got access to B-roll recordings and occasional special episodes that totaled 22 episodes, a total of 13 hours, 21 minutes, and 38 seconds. And they also, and you guys as well, got early access to 44 podcast episodes throughout the year. That's not counted in the total runtime for anything because those are official, podcast episodes I just throw up as early access. So that is not included in any of those stats, but it is worth mentioning that you guys got early access to 44 podcast episodes of the 59 that I released in 2022. And that's mostly because I guess 15 episodes, 15 episodes of podcasts that I released, I needed to get posted immediately. So there was like no time to do early access. And what I mean by that is that there was like in a lot of cases, maybe there was a hiatus or like people like the main feed didn't get enough, or there was a lapse in how the main feed was released or whatever. Or I wanted to, like, if it was anthology, I needed to get it posted like on a certain day to keep that schedule that I had. So anyway, 44 early access podcast episodes. Okay. And those are all of my stats for December 2022 and 2022 overall. And I'm going to leave you guys with what I usually do is what I'm looking forward to this month. But since we are in a new year, I'm going to run down a list of 18 titles that I am looking forward to in 2023. And I am not going
This podcast was edited and produced by Matt Hurt and presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. You can find links to all of our shows at ObsessiveViewer.com/podcasts. For exclusive bonus content, including reviews, commentaries, and B-roll episodes, you can subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/ObsessiveViewer. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.